Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
Yes, sir.
Can everybody hear?
Yes, sir.
I feel like I'm in Hollywood today.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Coriopolis, Hollywood.
Coriopolis. Isn't Coriopolis the closest thing to Hollywood imaginable?
It's getting there.
Come on, man.
We got to put some stars out in front of the. Everybody comes on the podcast. You need to put a star out on. The
Oh, the
sidewalk.
Walk of Fame, right?
Yeah,
Boom.
yeah. Wow, that'd be awesome.
That'd be
actually
pretty cool.
That's actually a pretty good idea.
You know what? We just go get some stickers, some star stickers, and put it down there and put people's names on it.
Just metallic, make them shiny.
Yeah, you know. But you charge them. You charge them $500 for the star.
Put their star there.
Yeah, right.
You know I would, too.
Well, yeah.
Guys, thanks for doing this on a rainy Sunday.
I was going to ask you if we were allowed to say what day it was, but yeah, rainy Sunday.
It's a rainy Sunday.
A rainy Sunday.
It's a rainy Sunday.
Better than a snowy Sunday,
No
like it's been
doubt.
for the past few.
No doubt.
Give it time, Fred. Give it time.
No, we're going to be hopeful, and we're in the clear. Not, probably.
So this is kind of a cool thing. This is, you guys obviously, well, it would have been cooler if you guys had truly never had met. But apparently, after you both saw each other's faces, you realized you had.
Right.
But you don't really know each other.
Correct.
But you know all the same people. You probably have very similar stories. And you both were on the movie The Road.
The Road.
Yes.
One of the most depressing.
If you think the movie was depressing, you should read the book.
Yeah, that's true. And what's even more depressing, I think I mentioned it last time, is the fact that like there was Oscar buzz and all kind of stuff for this movie, and it just did nothing.
Well, it was the recut. I mean, they filmed, but it was just the book was so graphic and depressing that they couldn't even put do
the content of the book.
Yeah, and that's what really made the book so great. But in the end, they just decided, hey, look, yeah, we shot it, but you know, it's bad enough as it is. It's depressing enough as it is. It was a good movie, but it's depressing enough as it is. We don't want to make anybody more depressed. So
Right.
It didn't sink Vito's career, though.
no, but that was his big Oscar buzz movie.
Oh, really?
Oh, that was, yeah,
big time, yeah.
They thought he was that was gonna be the one that propels him to.
I was
to the
excited.
You guys could have been a contender.
I wanted to bring it, and then I wanted to take a picture of it, but I still get checks from that movie. No joke. And I just got a check the other day for $11.76.
You're doing better than me on my Rockstar stuff because I got one for $4.36.
A quarter? Or is that a month?
I get halves, so I get
Every 6
every
months.
every 6 months. Yeah.
What was the best? What
mine's
was the
random.
best checks though? Were you like when the movie just come out? Were you getting
Oh
sizable
yeah,
checks?
yeah. They were sizable.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
That's
I mean,
cool.
I got a grand out of the box to do it because I told you like I was naked and I had like 3 words I said. So because it was a speaking role, I got a little extra money. So I got a grand to do it out of the box,
Okay.
and then once it came out, like I was getting $100 checks.
That's cool.
The initial ones might have been, I mean, like I should say several $100 checks early on, and then they just dwindle off. Like the ones I get now, they show you where they come from, and there were like 6 from Spain. I'm like, yeah,
6 from Spain.
on their like pay TV channels or whatever they are.
Yeah, I get like 1/100 of a cent every time it shows on HBO or some shit like that.
Yep.
So, what was your role in that movie?
If you look at the credits at the end, I was the man on mattress. So if they would have put more time, like if they would have showed me longer, and this may be like part of what you're saying about how they kind of like watered it down. I was lying on this bloody mattress. I think I told you, like Candace called me about this and
Yeah.
said, hey, they're looking for
Yeah.
skinny amputees. I'm like, I'm in. At the time anyway. So like I had just been freshly amputated, and there my residual limb, we'll call it, is on the mattress under like a pool of blood, and Vigo and his son are just coming into the basement of this house, and they don't know what's going on yet, and they open this door that's locked, and like the first thing they see is me laying on this mattress, and all these scrawny people, males, females, everything, like kind of scattering around. and like I was the freshest cut, so like I had to say like, help us, please help us. But that was the whole thing of
You think they overdubbed your voice? You're not really sure.
I'm not positive. I mean,
How can you not know that?
Well, because they affected it out. It was just like a ton of reverb and this and that. So I have a feeling maybe they did both, like overdubbed it and add some shit to it, just so all they really wanted somebody to hear somebody saying, help us, please help us. Because I think they did like 5 takes of me saying that, and they were probably like, fuck this. So,
is that the movie you talked about where you were in a field running?
Yeah, same movie.
Bunch of running scenes.
Because I actually read for the part of the people in the house.
Oh.
That's what I read for, and so I'm all excited that I get the so his scene. It dealt with Vigo and the kid. They come across his house, and in the basement they have a bunch of people who are being used as food.
Right.
And
piece by piece,
because you have to keep them alive, and so they cut off what they need for the day,
right,
and
keep it fresh.
And so they comes on. But then as Vigo and the kid are in the basement, the family comes home. So I was supposed to. I read for the part of the people in the family that come home, and I got this email, and it says, "Oh, we've got something better for you." I'm like, "Oh, something better." Wow,
that never ends well.
Yeah, it didn't. That's the whole long. That was the whole long story from. It was like a Saturday Night Live skit. It was just like, really, could this day get any more screwed up? But
well,
yes,
to tell the story. That's the running story. Where like,
yeah,
wasn't a kid that kept...
it was an old man that kept doing it. He kept blowing the scene up. You want me to tell it? I mean, I'll tell it. It's his show.
No.
No.
It's both
our
yours.
show.
That's right. Well, you two guys. No one gives a shit about me.
So for this, they had and I've told the story before. I get this phone call, and I just get home from Alice in Chains, and I grew a beard on the road, and so I come home, and I'm like, oh, I got this bitchin' beard, but you know what? Everybody hates it, so I'm just gonna shave it. I shave it, and I get this call from the lady that books me, Nancy Mosser, here in town, and she's like, hey, they're looking for skinny folks, and what are you weighing? I'm like, well, I weigh about 200 pounds right now, She's like, okay, could you lose some weight quick? And I'm like, it's a story of my life. Can you lose weight quick? I'm 6'2". Can I lose some weight quick? And I'm like, yeah.
I drink.
and she goes, by any chance, do you have a beard? I'm like, I just literally,
you sons of bitches.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
I missed it by 20 minutes. I had this huge ass beard. And she goes, how long can it take to grow a beard? I'm like, well, I can grow one fast, And this is the truth. I went and got like prenatals. I bought prenatals and stuff like that. And I'm taking prenatals and I'm doing. So I go in for the, they call me, and I'm at Channel 4 at the time, and they call me for this fitting. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do that. And so I got to pay my buddy to come in to work and take my shift. So I'm losing money already in this deal. And so I go down for the fitting, and I walk in, and the woman looks at me and she goes, oh, wow, he's kind of big. And I'm like, what? I mean, tall? And she's like, no, you're kind of fat. I'm like, I'm 200 pounds. And I'm supposed to lose weight. And so they want me to like lose weight. And so she's like, can you lose, like maybe 30 pounds?
They want you in the shower with the jump rope and the plastic bag on.
Exactly. I'm like, 30 pounds. She goes, can you get down to about like 170? And I'm like, 30 pounds? In how long? She goes, you have a month. And I'm like, it's a pound a day. Can I lose 30 pounds? And so, I go down.
It might kill me, but
you're gonna give it a shot.
I'm gonna give it the old college try, because it's. She's like, and they probably told you like, there's very few people in this movie. It's gonna be cool to be in this. So again, I'm method actor, and that's just how I always was. And I'm like, I'm gonna do the best I can to get into shape and get them to what they want. So I'm taking prenatals to grow the beard, and I'm trying to lose weight. And I go down to the fitting.
Can't make that up,
I go down to the fitting, and they look at me and they're like, oh wow, he's kind of big. And I'm like, oh, tall wise? No, weight wise, you're too fat. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, how are we going to cover this up? Figure it's supposed to be like winter constantly, it's apocalyptic. So it's cold and everything. And she's like, well, we'll just put a hooded sweatshirt on them. I'm like, all right. So they give me a hooded sweatshirt, this dirty hooded sweatshirt. And they give me like 7 layers of clothes because it's wintertime. And so I've got like Under Armour, thermal underwear and stuff like that, and a pair of pants that are like, they're loose because I don't know why you couldn't find clothes to fit you in the after the apocalypse, because it's not like they're not laying around everywhere you go. Everybody's dead. Just take some fucking clothes. And so they give me a pair of boots that has no laces on it and holes in the sole, and it's wintertime. And I'm like, wow, okay. And so they give me all this stuff, and it's all loose fitting, but they give me this red hooded sweatshirt. And they say, this is what you're going to wear. So again, I'm method. I have a Boogie Street red hooded sweatshirt.
Right.
Remember?
Right.
And I wore that thing for the next 17 days. But how I was going to lose the weight is I went to Zumba classes every day.
Wow.
I watched what I ate.
You are hardcore.
I watched what I ate. I went Atkins.
You actually admit that.
Well, yeah. And I went to in my red hooded sweatshirt that I wouldn't change because it's method, and I wanted it to smell
Those
bad.
ladies loved you.
Oh my goodness! And I ended up. But here's the thing: I look like a big 6-foot stork in the back. Fucking slide. It was terrible, and I think I freaked everybody out because, of course, I'm in the back. I don't want to be up front. I don't want to be seen.
Right.
But I did it. I did it for my art. And they call me up and they say, I actually got an email. It was from John Hillcoat. It was from the director, and he said, "We've got something special for you." He goes, be happy that you got picked. He goes, we're proud to have you. He said, but there's very few people in this movie, and he said that we've picked out a very special scene for you. It's not the scene that you read for, but we thought this would be nice. It's something different, and that your look was for something different. I'm like thinking, this is great, And I get on set, and I'm the first one there. Bright and early, and if you ever gone on a movie set, you're in makeup by 4:30, 5 o'clock. So I'm first one in, and I walk in and they go, okay, let me digress. They're supposed to shoot. They gave me 30 days to lose this weight, and then someone realized, hey, we're in Western Pennsylvania and it's March, and by April all the trees, which are supposed to be dead, have buds on them or leaves, and so they're going to show. So we need to shoot this in March. And when there's still snow on the ground. So it's cold. Day comes to shoot. It's a warm spell. It's 74 degrees or something like that in March. And all the snow melted. This is out at Raccoon State Park. All the snow melted. And it's warm. And the sun's out. It's supposed to be like a bleak, dead afterworld, like dead, And so it's sunny, warm. I've got 9 layers of clothes, and I've got like a decent beard growing because the prenatals really work. And I get in there and I walk in and I'm like, wow, this is great. I'm excited to act again. And I go walking in there, and the ladies in the makeup look at me and go, yeah, hi, what are you here for? And I'm the militia guy, and she's like, ooh.
Oh no!
Oh, you're kind of big. And I'm like, what do you mean kind of big? She's like, did they tell you to lose weight? And I'm like, yeah, I lost 17 pounds in 15 days. And she's like, you lost 17 pounds in 15 days. I'm like, yeah. I said, I would have hit that 30-pound goal. She's like, The same thing happened to me on Rockstar too, where they kept telling me to lose 15 pounds. I got down to like the 158 on Rockstar. I was like literally, I was, so figure I lost 17 pounds. I was like, what, $177 or something like that for that's bad math on that. $187 or whatever for
no, it's 17,
the road.
17 pounds off of
83. It'd be 183.
183. Yeah, I knew there was a 3 in there somewhere. But yeah, so I was down to 183 in just a few days. And she's like looking at me and she's like, my God, what are we going to do? And she's like, are you the guy with the hooded sweatshirt? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, okay. And so the big plan is to put a hat on me and cover my face up that I'm fat. Now, that doesn't make a difference if I got a 6-pack abs or stuff like that. They're not going to see that because they got 9 layers of winter clothes and Under Armour on. And so, but my face is fat. But it's got a beard. And the lady goes, she's like, how long did you grow this? I said, oh man, I grew this in the 15 days or 17 days or whatever it was. And she's like, oh, cool. Man, she takes a razor and she starts gashing my face with this clipper.
Oh, just to make you look.
And she goes, now you've got mange. And I'm like, I got mange. And she's sitting there and she's looking and they're just, I don't know if anybody's ever seen me normally, but I've got those huge ass black circles under my eyes, like I've
been the sunglasses today.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there and I'm in the chair and they're loving it, and I've got these crazy eyebrows that go wild and stuff like that, and she's sitting there talking to me, and Vigo comes walking in.
Ooh.
I beat him the makeup, and he's standing right behind me, and he goes, "Wow, what are we gonna do with him? That's a big one." And I'm like. And dead serious, because here's a guy that lost 70 pounds for this thing.
That's a big one.
He's emaciated. You could see every rib on this guy. He's method. I think I'm method. This guy's method.
Yeah.
You could see every rib. You could probably see the food going through his intestines. That's how much weight he lost.
Wow.
And he's like, wow, that's a big one. I'm like thinking. Oh, and so I'm like, and she's like, okay, you're done. And I go out to sit. And it's at Raccoon, and I see everybody else. They couldn't find. We're in Pittsburgh. We have a look. No matter what you are, you're in Pittsburgh. You have a look. We're kind of like. We carry a little bit of weight, no matter what.
We're
could be
portly in Pittsburgh.
You could be in shape, and you have. I walked out there, and I found out that they were bringing these gats in from Phoenix, and Texas and shit, because they couldn't find skinny crackhead looking fucking people enough in Pittsburgh, and so they're like shipping.
We like our carbs in this town.
Yeah, but and I talked to some of these gats, and they're, I'm from Phoenix. I do a lot of meth, and it's like wow, so that's what they were getting. And
that is method.
Yeah, that's method.
That's the ultimate method.
So I'm like sitting there, and I got this letter from this email from John Hillcoat, and he's like, we have a special thing for you, and we're real proud to have you here, and you're gonna love it. It's gonna be great. We're gonna make a good movie. So I'm all happy, and we get there, and they. So I'm the first one there. So now I've already waited for 3 hours, and I'm going. My phone's dying. This is before smartphones, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like la da 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 da, and everybody's like, well, wow, what do you do? And it's just like, oh yeah, you're a big one. And I'm like, I'm not.
You're like, if I hear that one more
that's exactly what I actually called my wife at the time. I'm like, dude, they keep saying I'm fat. I'm too fat for this. And what they had said was I'm the leader because I was so fat I must get all the food. And
that'd be about right.
So it became a joke. But we go down there to Raccoon State Park to shoot, and the next thing I know, the director comes, the AD comes down. He goes, all right, everybody. He goes, line up. And he lines up and he takes a look at everybody, and he's sitting there going down the line, and he gets to me and goes, oof. And I'm like, wow. And I literally, I thought this was a joke. I thought, oh, by this point, I'm thinking people are pranking me.
Right.
I'm like,
I would have too.
I'm like, this is a joke. And the guy comes down and he goes, all right, everybody, we're going to go make a movie. He goes, everybody from down here. And he comes to me and he stops. He goes, from this over, let's go make a movie. You sit on the bench. And I went and I sat on this bench, and I'm like, and we're out at Raccoon. There's no cell phone reception, so my phone's dying fast. And I'm like really upset. He's like, yeah, kind of. So he sits me down with 2 guys that were in the scene the day before. The guys in the scene the day before were murdered and killed off.
Okay.
And me being an actor for all these years and being in Hollywood and making movies, I know that if I'm sitting with 2 guys that were killed off yesterday,
you've already been killed off.
I'm not in the movie. Yeah, I'm not in this scene. And I'm going, well, I got the email, and he said that they have something special for me. And I'm sitting with the guys that got killed off yesterday, and those guys actually got cut from them. They cut the entire scene. They had to, because of they cut big chunks out of that were important to the book that were, but they cut these guys out. in the final thing, and I'm thinking, wait a second, I'm sitting with the 2 dead guys. What's that mean for me? And I'm like sitting there, and I'm watching these guys do take after take, making this movie, running through the woods. And I write, and I call home, and I'm like, man, I said, I think I just got fucked out of this movie. And don't worry about it. And I'm sitting there, and they do like 20 takes, and it's a while. So I'm like sitting for another couple hours. Lunch is coming up pretty soon, and the guy walks up to me and he goes, hey, I'm thinking he's sending me, he's going to break me off. It's been 4 hours. He's going to break me off the lunch. And he goes, are you ready? And I'm like, ready for what? I'm thinking he's going to send me home, And he goes, let's go make a movie. I said, all right. And they tell me what it is. And what it is there's a boy and a woman running down the road, and there's a guy chasing them, which is me. And the other guys come out of the woods and they catch them and they circle them and they kill them and eat them. They probably raped them first, but that's all left to the imagination. And that's how the scene was supposed to be set up. But I'm the mean guy right behind them, chasing them and herding them into the thing. It's them and me, center of focus in the scene. And I'm like, this is great. This is awesome. This is the best fucking thing that's going to happen to me, man. This is going to be killer, And they take me out on this road, and all the snow had melted. So for like acres and acres and acres, they blew white paper.
Oh, wow.
White, that scene where they're running down the road,
yeah.
That's all just paper.
Wow.
That's all just like little fine paper.
No shit.
And the sun's out, and it's 74, and I've got 9 layers of clothes on, and they walk me down the end of this. They walked me down
It's like a football field length.
Yeah, it was like a quarter mile. It was like literally like a quarter mile on this road, and this clearing, this field. It was like a daisy pad. It's 1,000 feet, maybe longer. And I'm sitting there going, all right, so here we are. It's like 4 football fields, and I said, so what do you want me to do? He goes, well, the way the camera's seeing it, you need to run. You're going to hit your mark. You're going to jog. You're going to start walking at the end scene where the woman and the child, when you catch up to them, they're going to take a knee, and the camera's going to go up, and it's going to the group of people is going to circle them. The camera's going to go up. The woman takes a knee, and you come in with your stick, and it's going to go black. And it's left to your imagination. What happens? She screams, and it's left to the imagination of what's going to happen to him, which is kind of brutal, man, because it's psychological.
Right.
You know what's going to happen to him. And I'm like, wow, this is great. And he goes, but you got to run, and then you got to jog, and you got to walk. Hit your marks. I'm like, I can hit my marks. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and it's not that hard, except for I've got shoes with no soles on them and no shoelaces because in the apocalypse, can't find a dead body with a pair of boots that fits. And so I've got these floppy shoes, 9 layers of clothes. The sun's out, and it's supposed to be dark, and it's 74 degrees. And I just said, this is the greatest day ever. I'll do whatever you want me to do. So I got on the end of the road, and I meet this kid, and they're like, all right, we want some emotion, blah, blah, blah. And again, I've got a beard with mange in it. And so I start, I'm ready, and I meet the people, and they're running. And the kid's like looking at me, and he's scared, and I've got my stick, and I'm like, I'm all happy. I'm ready to go. And they're like, no, you need to look terrifying. And the guy comes walking over, he goes, I need you to scare the shit out of this kid. I'm like, what? He goes, scare the shit out. The AD came over, he goes, scare the shit out of the kid. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I want the kid to look terrified. I'm like, all right. Ooh, I nailed it. So I do my run thing, and they take off running, and they're running, and I run, I hit my mark, I jog, and I start walking in, and the camera goes up. The girl takes a knee, the group circles them, and this old man, the one rule was, don't touch the actors. Nobody touched the actors because we want it to be psychological, and nobody touches anything. And you run, jog, hit your marks, it's going to go up, and it's going to fade to black. So run, jog. Kids comes in there, fucking, they're sitting there. The woman takes a knee. The crowd comes around, and this old man from like who knows where grabs the kid and goes, "I got you." And they go, cut. That was beautiful, but again, nobody touched the actors. Don't come in here and you didn't hear the director say to touch anybody. He goes, "I'm sorry, I just got excited." Hey, it's no problem, man. It's let's just go back to one, back to do it. And the guy the AD comes over, he goes, "Hey, man, scare the shit out of the kid for me." He goes, "I want this kid to look terrified running." I'm like, all right. So I start walking back because I have to walk with him. So we're walking. I'm like, he goes, you look very scary. He's from Australia. And I'm like, "Oh, thank you. I said, "Man," I said, "if I hurt you, when I catch you," I said, he's when you catch me, I said, to eat you. I said, I'm like, when I catch you, I'm gonna eat you. And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, and he's a young kid, and I'm like, "Well, I'm."
You didn't read the book. You should have read the book.
And I've got my stick, and I said, "This is pretty sharp." And he's like looking, and he's looking at me, and he's like, "Would you really hurt me?" I'm like, "That's what they want me to do. I got to catch you. You're just too fast right now, but eventually, I'll." So he's looking at me, and his name was Wilson, and I said, "Wilson," I said, "I'm going to get you on this one, And so he's sitting there, and he's turned around looking at me, and I got my stick, and it's just like this pointed like fireplace hook kind of thing, and I'm sitting there like going like this, and I'm twirling it. I said, "Ready?" And he's like, I said, "I'm coming for you." And they, it's action. And they take off running, and he's like looking back behind me, behind him, and it comes out really good.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. So they're running, and then I run, jog, hit my marks. Everything's great. The camera goes up. Crowd comes around. They circle, and the old man goes, "I got you again," and he grabs him again. And they're like, cut. They're like, "What the hell?" Now he's like, "Please do not. Who told you to do that?" And the guy goes, "What's my motivation?" And they go, "Wait, what? What's your motivation?" "Look, just stop. You stop the one with you. Don't touch him." He goes, "Well, I'm hungry, and I got him." He goes, That's how I would act if I was hungry." And they're like, "No, you don't." And he's this old man. He goes, "I'm not used to acting." He goes, "My son saw an ad that they needed skinny actors," and he was like real goofy looking, and so they hired this guy. And he goes, "I'm not a real actor," and they're like, "You don't say." So they go and it's like, don't touch the people again. So he goes back, and the kid's crying, and so I'm walking back, and I'm like, "Man," I said, "Boy, am I hungry." and the kid's like, he's like nervous, and he's like, "Look, really, are you going to hurt me?" I'm like, "If I catch you, I will, but right now we're just walking, And so we go back, and the kid's sitting there, and he's nervous, and he's whimpering, and he's crying, kind of like in real life. And he's looking, and he's looking back, and it's okay, and action, and run. And now you got to remember, this is a quarter mile.
This is the third time.
This is the third time in floppy shoes and 74 degrees, and it's hot out. And now I'm soaking wet under this because I have the hood up on the sweatshirt, and I have 9 layers of Under Armour on, and I'm run, jog, get there, and the old man he walks right into the scene again, and he doesn't say anything, but he's just like standing there like, and they're like, "Wait. Just stop. You keep fucking this up." And the guy goes, "Well," he goes, "what would you want me to do?" And they're like, "Well, everybody's coming in and just do what everybody else is doing." And the guy goes, we're walking back, and the AD comes up to me and goes, "Look, the old man's got to go." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "You want to keep doing this?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, "You want to keep running?" He goes, "We got to get the scene shot." He goes, and the guy keeps blowing it. And he goes, "Look, man, you got to take the old man out." I said, "What exactly are you telling me? Because you ever play football?" I'm like, "Yeah, I played football." He goes, "I need you to knock the old man out, so he just doesn't get there with everybody else." He goes, "Make sure he doesn't get there, arrive with everybody else, and we get the shot done."
Clip him. Yeah,
and that's what he wanted me to do. He goes, just hip check him, tackle him, whatever you got to do. Just make sure his timing's not with everybody else.
Right.
And I said, me. And he's like, yeah, you. I'm like, all right. Because they were coming up through the woods. They were coming up through the weeds. And I was on the road. And this old man was on the end. So he would come on the road and I would pass him.
Well, everybody else is getting pissed at him, right? I mean,
everybody's getting pissed. You know, everybody's. I mean, he's wasting a lot of time and wasting a lot of money. I mean, these shots are they're
involved.
Yeah, and so this is no shit. We come running, and I'm trying to terrify the kid. You know, and by this time the kid's I twirl my stick at him, you know, stuff like that, and I get my hook, you know, and now I've got to contend with this. I got to time it where
you knock this guy out.
I'm going to take care of the old man. So run, jog. There's the old man. Hip check into the weeds. I knock him down, and I'm thinking this guy's going to break a hip. You know, and I'm gonna feel guilty about it. I get up there, the camera goes up in the air, the circle comes around, the woman and the kid take a knee. They're looking, I've got my stick, and I come up, and the old man comes running and goes, cut. He tripped me.
Oh my God.
And I shit you not. Everybody was about to explode. They're about to fucking explode, and they're like, whoa. You don't fucking say cut. You don't. And the guy's like, he tripped me and knocked me into the woods, and I think he did it on purpose.
Wow.
And I'm going, and everybody's like looking at me, and I'm like,
you can't win.
And so
you become the bad guy to some people.
Yeah. So
you took the assignment.
So we go walking back, and the guy goes, "That was great. Do it again. Make sure that." Look, make sure he doesn't get up this time. And I'm like, wait, what? He goes. Did you see how he just messed that up? He goes,
take him
we're
out.
running out of time here. He goes, take him out. Make sure he doesn't get up. And I'm like, and in the meantime, because this guy kept fucking up so much, and everybody was shifting around, they changed my position. And because it had been, you know, some of these establishing shots, it was this guy. Everything was so. Now I'm out of position. I'm kind of pissy, and you know,
you turned into a hitman.
So run. He goes, take him out, and I've got the kid crying. The kid's tired of running. I'm like, you know, and so I'm trying to think of more interesting things to tell this kid that boy, I bet you're tired. I said, it makes it easier for me to catch you, you know. So he's terrified. You could tell the woman was just getting tired of this. So run. And I see him come up, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him. He's looking at me, I'm looking at him. I didn't even hit the jog spot. I hit run. I nailed him so hard. I clipped him. He flipped, but I did it when I timed it. And I'm not joking. It was it's horrible for me to say because, you know, but there was jagger bushes there.
Oh,
and he got stuck in the jagger bushes. And it wasn't like I wanted to knock him into the jagger bushes, but it kind of
worked out that way.
It just kind of worked out that way. And he got stuck in the jagger bushes. And
that's so wrong.
Run. And then I started jogging, and the camera goes up, and I walk in, and I got my stick, and the girl dives down. She takes a knee, and they're looking, and the camera goes up. She takes a knee, and the scene goes, you know, edited, goes black. And he comes running up because he knocked me into the jab, but it was too late.
They already got it.
Scene was done. And they're like, great job. And so they're like, okay, we're going to do the close-ups now. And so here's my big part. You know, finally, after all these years, I get a decent part. And it's going to be me being menacing and terrifying. And the girl goes, excuse me. Yeah, I got to go. And they're like, what? It's 4:30 in the afternoon. We still got, you know, page to shoot. No, I gotta go. I'm a ballerina, and I have a recital tonight at 6:30. And if I don't leave right now, I'm not going to.
Are you shitting me?
Make my recital. And they're like, wait, what? No, you're shooting a movie. We've been shooting this. She goes, yeah. They told me that I might be done early, and this is taking like way too long, and I've got to go. I've got to be at this recital tonight. And they're like, no, you're shooting a movie. She's like, I gotta go, and she leaves. And so that's why the end of the scene is not in there. It's just them running. down, and it goes up and goes to black. The whole rest of the scene of
you are so snake bit, man.
Exactly. And that's
You
the
got
story,
totally chopped from it.
story of my career. And you see me for 1 millisecond of like literally, and you get to see like my stick and my hood and my hats in my face and I'm like, I did all this for nothing.
Do you remember when you first saw the movie and you saw yourself on the screen? Did you go to the movies in theater, see it, or did you wait for it to come on TV?
Boy, that's a good question. That's so long
Did you
ago.
go to the premiere?
No.
See, I didn't go to the premiere either. I was on tour.
No.
Where was the premiere at? Here?
They always have something in town. I'm sure it was in Hollywood.
So
but-
something gets filmed here. There's always a premiere.
yeah,
locally.
they'll
Yeah, no,
throw-
I don't think I saw it in the theater. I honestly don't. I don't know why. It might have just been a crazy time at the time because it was it like a year and a half later that it came out, something like that. Yeah. So
Yeah. Why was that? I remember it was delayed.
a lot of them do. It's
That-
timing, Oscar timing.
Really?
Yeah, and but there were also I remember talking to somebody, hearing something about it. There were like just a backlog of editing problems
Yep.
and things like that. So I mean, a whole bunch of stuff combined drug it out that long.
Yeah.
But I mean, my similar thing in it is like the scene that they filmed once I saw the final product.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have thought that the scene was going to last, I mean, at least minutes. You know what I mean? Because they're in this basement, they're coming up on this door, blah, blah, blah. They open the door, they see all these people. I'm laying there, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the scene is, if I look at it on a stopwatch, I mean, it's 5 seconds. And I'm in it 2.5 of those 5 seconds. So it's like, you get the shock factor for that amount of time, and then the main thing you see is Vigo and his son's face. Like
Got
from
it.
the shock, and then that's kind of it. So it's like from what you spend 14 hours there. I mean, they were throwing coffee on me. I mean, I wish I would have brought that picture, but
Is that why movies cost so damn much to make?
Well,
It's
I mean-
just so much. There's so much like things get cut on the cutting room floor.
yeah,
right?
I mean, there's so much detail and going back and
Is
making
it
sure
too
it's
much?
perfect.
Is it like when you look back at that, like all the years you've done it, like I remember driving one night, just cruising around. It was like midnight, and I was in Carnegie, driving down 50 toward Heidelberg, and there's an old shopping plaza there across from the old Pizza Hut that's been in Carnegie there on 50. And I looked over at this plaza, and they were filming Batman, the last Batman, with Bale. And there was a bunch of trucks and lights, and I didn't know, I couldn't believe what I was seeing because I just didn't know they were filming, and I'm just driving, and I'm looking over, and I see Batman running through this parking lot with another thing moving aside. I saw Batman. I'm like, what the hell is that? And sure enough, they were shooting a scene there, and that scene isn't in the movie.
yeah.
And think of how much time that probably took to bring
Yeah.
all that shit to that location,
Oh, dude, it's
all
taking a
those
little time.
people, and all that makeup, and all that stuff, then to leave it
They just
out.
lop it off.
Well, like
That's crazy.
It is.
Figure the prep they did for you. Like you said, they're throwing coffee on you. Hey, could you really tell that you look dirty? I know the
I
scene.
mean, they spray painted my ribs to be more
Yeah.
like showing out. Because I mean, I was skinny. I mean, I was like 140 or 144 at the time.
Wow.
And I mean,
that's crazy.
And the guy I was competing with, one other amputee, and he was like, he was probably 200 plus pounds.
Yeah, see?
And the director,
He had
what's his
more
name?
meat on him, though.
John Hilco,
Yeah, he came up and looked at us both in our chairs because same as you, when my beard grows out, it's red, and I dyed my friggin' hair red. Like my wife and I are doing it in our bathtub when I'm doing it, and like I did everything I could to match the role. This dude was just like himself, I think. And he was like 200 plus pounds. The director comes and like hardcore looks us both in the eye. Like we're sitting in chairs and he's staring at me and I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to be doing right now? And he picked me of the person that was going to be on the mattress. That dude was still in the scene, but he was kind of like behind people,
Yeah.
probably on purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what they do.
So, but I forget what the hell were we were going with that, but so in the end, it worked out, I guess, for me. But leading up to that, there were hours of prep. I
Yeah.
sat in the makeup chair for 2 or 3
That's
hours.
insane to
Yeah.
me.
And I have one cool picture. I wish I would have brought it. I might have it buried on my phone somewhere. But I'm sitting there in my underwear, and our day was freezing. It was raining.
Where did they shoot that? Did they shoot it at the house, or did they shoot it on a soundstage?
The house in Unity.
Okay.
Yeah. And like, so I'm sitting there in this tent, and there's cold air blowing through. I'm in my underwear only. My leg is fully exposed, everything. They hadn't put like the little prosthetic blood and all that stuff at the end of it yet. But I mean, I'm covered in coffee grounds and all this other shit to make me look like I've been spending a lot of time in this basement. And man, like, but in the end, again, like, you see me for 2 seconds. Was it really? Did you have to do all that? You know,
I wonder about that. Like, I mean, how much?
And the other people too. I mean, you see other people for 1 second, and they're spraying their eyes and making them look, just beat down and everything. I'm like, holy crap!
Literally, I was just running, and they went into detail and fucked up my teeth.
Oh yeah! Oh, I had wax all over my teeth.
Yeah.
Oh, it was terrible.
But just in case you get that, so they're prepped for it, and that's exactly.
If they catch it, that one thing on camera.
Yep, and that's where the magic's at, and that's what they were doing. They were taking my eyebrows and tweaking my eyebrows. They were taking my beard and tweaking my beard, just to have those little details that you would have in real life of an apocalypse thing. And that's what was really, they every person gets that attention to detail, and there's a great cost that it incurs by doing all that stuff, but it has to be right, because you know what? If it's not, that's the thing that somebody's going to pick out in the movie, going, look at that, that cowboy hat's not period, you know?
Yeah, some critic will tear it apart for the dumbest reasons.
With digital technology now, do you don't think that they can correct stuff like
they do a lot of digital stuff in post now. But the thing was, like with the road, is you're talking 2008, 2009.
Right.
It wasn't as advanced as it was. Like when we were doing My Bloody Valentine, they were getting, and it was supposed to be 3D, they were getting updates on the new way to do things in 3D daily, and they would have to download it to the cameras.
Oh, wow.
Because because in the middle of it, the technology changed. So here you go, and this is what's going to, and so they were doing that, and so post-production editing and doing it's a lot easier now than it was back then.
Right, with CGI and all that.
Yeah, with all the CGI.
Yep.
All right, let's turn our talk to music here for a second.
Okay.
Because the movie thing could last all day. Because it's funny as shit, and I mean, we may return to that.
I mean, it was a bucket list thing. I'll say that, and I never planned on wanting to do it. I mean, it was just it just happened. So I'm like, I got to take advantage of this.
I remember when the ad came out for that. I know you want to do music. I remember when I saw the ad for that. For the road and stuff along those lines. Oh yeah,
me too.
Huh?
Yeah, they were looking for extras. They're looking for stuff now, man. They've got 3 productions in town.
That's encouraging. Yeah, it didn't stop because of COVID for a while, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it all stopped. Yeah, it stopped March of last year because of COVID, and then I think it picked back up in November, and I'm back working on a show now, but and there's more coming. So maybe it'll be a good year for Pittsburgh.
I hope so.
I think that they got a lot of the safety stuff worked out where they can do it. Where early on they didn't know what to do.
Oh yeah, we get temperature checks every day. If you're on set, you get checked 3 times a week. You get the COVID tests. Yep. I got rapid tested the other day. Yeah, I get it. I'm supposed to get it once, but we've been getting it twice.
Wow.
Because I started on the main set here in Pittsburgh, but then I went off and branched off, and I've been working on the set coming up in Washington today. So, it's just so then you get tested again.
Yeah, Luke tells me the same thing. I mean, he 2 to 3 times a week is what stood out.
So you know you don't have COVID. So at least I'm safe on that. But you got to wear your masks, and you got to wear glasses. Like
fogging up.
Oh yeah, dude, I've got a face shield. I got yelled at the other day. I'm literally up on a ladder, and I've got a drill in one hand and a Leco light that we were taking down, and because I was in set dressing, and this was a house light that was there for like a performance, and they needed to take it down, and so I knew what I was doing, so I took the light down. But I'm standing on this ladder, this rickety ladder, and there's nobody else in the room except for the safety woman, the COVID safety woman, the guy below me, and I'm on a ladder and I've got all this heavy stuff. and my glasses fogged up. And so I put the drill down and I wiped my glasses. She started yelling at me, "You put your glasses back on, your safety wear, blah, blah." And I'm like, you'd rather have me fall off the ladder or drop this light on this guy's head than chance getting COVID in my eyes in an empty room. But yeah, she
caught you for the 3 milliseconds you were wiping them off.
I was wiping them off. You need to wear those, sir. You need to put your safety glasses back on. Really, because I can't see what the hell I'm doing to come off of this ladder. But yeah, I'll do it. But what was great is so, like, a week later, I go back in for the testing, and I'm sitting there. She goes, "I remember you. You the guy from set dressing." I'm like, "Yeah, that's me. That's me." Yeah, she's fucking yelling at me about my glasses, man.
Wow.
Come on. So I've got a super cool face shield now, like you see in the movie Outbreak.
We gotta wear those on this show,
dude. I've got mine in my car.
Yeah,
man.
but I don't know. Can you talk through them?
You can't talk through them.
Have to have a mic inside,
and then you would sound like this.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work.
You sound like Darth Vader, kind of. It's all. But what was great is sometimes when these things are brand spanky new, you forget they're on, and you really can't drink a coffee through it when you're used to just pulling your max down and you smack the coffee off the thing.
Listen. No one is going to tell me that they didn't try to drink something with a mask on at some point.
I just did it less than a week ago.
Yeah. I've done it.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it plenty of times.
This is no shit. I had a mask on. It happened yesterday. I was trying to think of when it happened. It happened yesterday because we were hanging paintings. And so there was a layer of concrete dust on the top of this painting. And I went to blow on it and nothing came out because I got an N95 mask on and there's no air coming through. Yeah, I actually tried to blow.
Proving the effectiveness of an N95 mask.
So I tried to blow the dust off a painting that had gotten concrete dust on it, and it didn't. It works, folks. Wear your masks.
All right, so one of the topics I wanted to hit with both of you guys today is David, as you know, Fred, has an aversion toward the grunge era. This is a 80s melodic guy at heart. He loves that music. I kind of do too. And the grunge thing didn't resonate with me and really didn't resonate with him from my prior discussions with you.
Correct.
I never dived into your personal likes and dislikes as you evolved as a human.
I evolved?
As you evolved as a human.
Yeah, I'd say I did.
Yeah, anyways, I never got any take on what you thought of that whole era, because I know you were in bands as well too, and then you went and hit the road right toward the end of the grunge era.
Yeah.
My question is, like, what was that era like to you? And I want to see if we can find some commonality here.
Oh my goodness, it's his show. Anyway,
no, you started off the conversation, my friend. It's a banter.
Chime in.
I was not a fan of the grunge era. And it was weird because I wasn't a fan of the music I was playing either, and I was writing the damn shit. And but I was in like a progressive metal band, if you want to call it that. And they gave us
everything but Rush.
Yeah, yeah.
No Rush. There's no Rush fandom over there with him.
No, I'm not a Rush fan.
I don't know how I can associate with you, but I choose to do that. I make an exception
because I'm just too cool.
I guess.
But they had we ended up we used to play graffiti all the time. We ended up playing with like the bands that we had this certain sound that to me it sounded like Queensryche, which I really didn't dig. And
I do.
Yeah. So we sounded like Queensryche, and they would put us with like Sonic Youth. We played with Sonic Youth and Social Distortion and shit like that. But there was this little band that was coming out, and they billed us on the bill, and it was some band. I don't know if they did anything. I don't know if they're still around. They were called Nirvana. Nirvana.
Never heard.
It was like a
of
3-piece, but they were out of Seattle,
Never
and they dropped some album and became huge before we got to play with them, and then they dropped us from the bill. But what was awesome is I was at that Seattle. What the hell? Allison Chains just did the thing for him. It's a Seattle museum. It was like the Hendrix Experience Museum.
It's owned by Paul. What's his name from Microsoft?
Yeah, I can't think of the name. But in there, they had in the Hendrix exhibit, the Seattle exhibit, and shit like that. They had Kurt Cobain's handwritten tour itinerary of that year, and Pittsburgh was on and it was open to that page. And I sat and I smiled. I'm like, that's a sign. That was a sign. But yeah, we didn't get to play with them. We ended up playing with Sonic Youth instead. And
what did you think of that, Eric? When you heard that shit?
When I heard the music, I thought, there's nothing there. There's no talent. There's no solos, or it's weedly guitar instead of melodic.
Didn't even sound in tune to me.
Yeah,
and I think that was by design, partially.
It was like the Sex Pistols Part 2.
What's funny is you're getting old when you're sitting there going, these kids don't even want to learn their craft. When I was young, I learned my scales and my modes, and these guys, they just go up there and there's nothing. And that's exactly what it was, man. But when you look back at it now, it was genius. The way these things.
Was it marketing, though, right?
Well, yeah, but it was that slacker kind of vibe and feel, and it gave birth to a whole.
To more slackers.
To a whole sound of music.
Well, and again, I think we said last time, it touched a nerve of a group, like a huge group of people out there, mostly probably like younger, angry dudes. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't say angry, but just a lot of different things in that spectrum.
Angst.
Yeah, that it touched a chord where they're like, I've been waiting to hear this for years, blah, blah, blah. I'm sick of all the pop metal stuff and all that, blah, blah, blah. And I was still in love with all of that, so it was the opposite for me. But yeah, I mean, I agree. It looking back on it, and I told you this last time, like looking back on it, like there's stuff I see about it and realize about it that I was looking at it blindly because I was so angry about it.
Me too.
Same here.
At the time.
Me too.
Same here.
But now
Me too.
I'm like, yeah, I mean,
well, they were slagging, and we didn't get a lot of press. Still, it still was magazines and radio shows and all, but Kurt Cobain and
Eddie Vedder.
To a lesser degree, Eddie Vedder, they were slagging the music that we loved. But it's the same thing that Rotten did with the Pistols. He slagged the ELP and Led Zeppelin and the Stones. It was the same formula.
You're right. When you said that during our last talk, I'm like, the more I thought about that, I'm like, you're 100% right. I never really looked at it that way, but you're right, 100%.
The difference is, I think, time has proven out that what the Pistols said and what Rotten was said then, because he still feels exactly the same way, there was some truth to that.
It was genuine.
Opinion. I'm not sure that the grunge era was not really about marketing, and some of that stuff was contrived.
Right.
Oh yeah. I'm just putting it out there. I don't know that that's.
Yeah, and my speculation from it too was, to me, it was select a group of those bands, but it was also like the agenda of, and I really strongly use that word because I really wholeheartedly believe it, like MTV was ready to be on the cusp, on the edge of something new and happening and blah blah blah, and I think it was all designed to go that way, and certain bands, Nirvana to me was one of them, they were fully on board. They
broke the gate down, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, I think at least Cobain was in the mindset like we're on board with being that part of that agenda. Where like Pearl Jam, I just think again, I didn't love them back then, but I didn't really hate them, and now I really respect them. I like them a lot more than I did. But I don't think they were in that. I don't think they were in that mindset. I just think they had a sound. Mm-hmm. They probably at first didn't want to become huge. I don't know that they had the mindset to become huge, but they did. But I don't think they were in that mindset as screw everything from the past. We hate all this. Yeah. They were just like, we're doing our thing.
Well, have you ever seen those early interviews with like Eddie Vedder, which like he comes out and he's like, oh yeah, we're a band out of Seattle. It's the greatest thing ever. It's a tight knit community up there. It's all family, and our first album's coming out, and this is going to be great, and blah 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 blah. And then you see him like after he became famous, and he's talking about Seattle. He's like, so what we've got up there is like a movement of the people, and we're all like together, like as a collective family. It's just like, what the fuck is that? Last year, before you were famous, you could talk like a normal.
You're like, we got this band.
It was contrived,
and that's exactly it.
Well, but okay, so I'm going to get slagged here for people that pay attention to these things, but the Pistols were contrived too from Malcolm McLaren. He orchestrated the band, created it. The thing about that was McLaren, I don't think, understood that the people he was putting in there, primarily Jones and Rotten, They were literally that angry and pissed off at everybody.
They lived it.
Yeah, they lived it, and that permeated because they've been relatively consistent in their viewpoint, especially Rotten. Not so much Jones; he's moderated a bit, but the point is that there was a little more truth to that era, and not just the Pistols. There was other bands of that ilk. This thing seemed like it was a record company thing, and I will tell you, we talked about this. You know, whether it's Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. And pick that era. Pick any band from that Seattle sound or that grunge era. There's some really good hard rock in there. That you take some of the labeling away, and maybe some of the angst that you might feel in some of the vocals. It really is hard rock. Yeah. It's just different than what was coming out of the 80s.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't really melodic. It was in your
progressive.
face. Like Kim Thayil's guitar tone was so heavy and in your face. I loved it.
Yep.
But I had not heard anything like that.
Right.
So I think it was just being different as opposed to being a grunge thing. So to
Yeah,
speak.
I also think too, if they would have marketed it a different way, to me, I might not have taken it the same way that I did initially.
Yeah, because it was an attack on what you dug.
And I mean, you know, you think of, you know, I hate to use the term, you know, sound like a crybaby, but like think of, and I'm a big fan of Beavis and Butthead to this moment in time, but they were part of that movement to some degree, and they mocked some stuff.
No question.
And like that all just blew up to the point where all that stuff is pussified. It's the hair, the makeup, blah, blah. I'm like, you know, and it pissed me off at the time.
Well, the greatest thing is that's what like Reb Beach always says, that Beavis and Bud had killed Winger.
They did.
You know, they're on top of the charts, and then they put Stewart out there in a
With his
in a,
Winger
in
shirt.
a Winger T-shirt.
Yep.
You know, and he was like the puss, and you know they're playing like stadium, you know, like outdoor arenas. You know, they're playing big concerts, and he said by the time Beavis and Bud had like beat Winger down, he said, you know, they're playing graffiti, going, you know, this is his own hometown, and people are like, yeah, I've got something better to do tonight. You know, I don't want to be seen at a Winger show.
Yep, it's the truth. And I mean, it went that they were part of that MTV agenda thing.
Yep.
You know, they really were.
Yep.
But-
Speaking of MTV, like what happened there? Like, I mean, really, it was really music television at some point, and then it became
It's that Real World and shit like that.
well,
Turned
I
everything.
think Real World, which I found fascinating, the first one. I did. I was captivated because it was something like reality TV really didn't exist at that time.
No, it was groundbreaking.
But that success of Real World probably convinced executives at MTV, let's just take other examples of different things and try it, and they became, quite frankly, a network.
Yeah.
They weren't music television anymore.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, quite depressing to me.
It's depressing to me too when I look back on it, especially. I mean,
And I maybe have seen 5 minutes of The Real World in my life to this moment.
I've never watched
the
it
first
either.
one I thought was really good, but then it was part of understanding myself, I think, after religiously watching that for a whole season 2 or 3.
Right.
I said at some point, like, I'm tired of watching other people live their lives. I mean, I got a pretty good life. I'm going to go live it.
Right.
It was really in my face. I got that. I don't say I'm better for getting that. I think I might be better off for myself that I figured that out, but I think a lot of society has never figured that out.
Yeah.
They're still watching other people live their lives
Yeah.
on TV all the time.
That's the thing now. I mean, look at these shows. Here, you know, reality TV killed the video star for MTV because all their stuff became, after the success of The Real World, you had the Osbournes, then you had your offtakes of these other things. Now you've got the Kardashians, and you had the
Gene
Honey
Simmons
Boo Boo and Gene Simmons.
I mean, yeah, Bret Michaels even went that way.
So all these rockers took that stuff, and then as it went on, all these other shows on other networks, it became, how are these people? It's just like,
okay, so both of you are creative people. I mean, you've been on movies, you've created music, you've been on movies, you've created things, you perform. So it's a different mindset than what I do. My question is, because entertainment has gone this way where it really has become ultra reflective on society, I mean, really reflective on society, and also is plagiarizing society now with reality TV, doesn't that say something bigger about the inability for us to create at really great levels in television and movies like we might have done before the MTV era?
I mean, right? I go back to, it's like, so think about in the last 20 years, what has been recycled. Like, they always go back to something that was great. and either do a spin-off or a this or a that. People were redoing songs
And they
more
screw
than
it
they
up.
ever have in the history.
Is that laziness? Human
I
laziness?
think it is.
Well, I think it is for sure, but I also think, at least on the music level, that it goes back to, well, we're not going to sell new original material as well as
Yes.
we're going to sell something that people are
Yes,
familiar with.
You're absolutely right on
Wow,
that.
that's sad.
It is.
That's
It's
really
totally sad. And I mean, even the some of the artists that I don't necessarily know or are younger and don't like, but respect, like, I think of like Billie Eilish or somebody like that. I don't know her that well, but I hear this and that, and she's one of the few like out there that are trying to make a mark for what
Yeah.
she does.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but it's just there's so much recycling going on of every imaginable thing because nobody either wants to take the time or nobody has the creative mindset anymore. Again, maybe it's because of the devaluation of everything. They're like, I'm not putting my time and energy into this if it's not going to get me somewhere or
Yes.
make me a living or make me money,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay. Well, I can understand that in music because it has been devalued, but that doesn't cover it when it comes to television and movies, film, because they've gotten very lazy there too.
No, I agree.
All the reboots on things.
Yeah,
they're-
that's what I'm talking about.
They're trying to find you know what? You're not going to hear somebody say, wow, that was better than the original. You're never going to hear that.
Next to never, at least.
Next to never. And you're never going to hear it with, like, Ghostbusters,
Well,
the new one.
I will say, for me, Kristen Bale's first Batman I thought was better than the very original Batman with Adam West. And I think it
well-
also was better than the one with Jack Nicholson.
But
I do.
it was but the Adam West one was like kind of like when you look at it now, it was campy, but that was like the sign of the times. Whereas Bale's really dark. In all honesty, I liked Michael Keaton.
I did too.
Yeah, and
that was a combination of both, having a little bit slightly dark, campy,
Yes.
and period. It was a period piece.
And again, it was like the first time it was coming out, but I thought he nailed it as, you know what I mean? That's how it's the unassuming Bruce Wayne,
Right.
Whereas Bale was kind of dark.
That was good, though.
But it was a dark movie all the way around.
It was.
And thus it's called The Dark Knight. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it was really and so I think that each one was like cast. They're all good in how I can't think of a bad one. Maybe the Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy and shit like that one. But but I thought that that Keaton did a great job, and I like Kristen Bale's.
Yeah.
Who did they just get to do it? Clooney wasn't
Ben Affleck.
I haven't seen the Ben Affleck. one.
I don't know what's
No.
going on with that, but back to the issue of them rebooting everything, the Spider-Mans and
I was in Spider-Man.
and I know. I just, and again, I'm probably speaking out of school because I'm not a big Marvel aficionado, DC comic aficionado. I don't know the movies. I don't know the comics.
Right.
But the movies are entertaining. My kids grew up in that era where they really, were prevalent, and I dug watching it with them. I just think that we, from a creative standpoint, just don't have a lot going on. My wife, she enjoys these Lifetime movies once in a while, and I'll come into the house and she's watching them, and I'll sit down, I'll watch it for like 10, 15 minutes, and it's so freaking bad. The acting, just everything, it's bad.
Low production
and
value.
I can't get into it. And I say to myself, there's got to be more going on with creativity and filmmaking and TV than this,
Yeah.
It's like anything else now, Eric. It's all about making money fast, as cheaply as possible.
Yep.
And when you're talking about like a Lifetime movie, something like that, they get a generic script, generic actors, generic production values. They put it out because people will watch them.
Yep, they'll consume it. It's
Yeah.
like a consumption thing,
Because-
and they'll cookie cutter it 3,000 times,
Exactly.
in little different variations, and people love it.
And that's what's happening with music now too. I mean, it's cookie cutter. It's somebody going out there. Here's the formula. Granted, back in the day when you have these great sorts, these same people and musicians writing these '60s songs, these classics of all time. It was new. It was cookie cutter. You had people in there, but they could actually come up with something, but it was new, it was different. We live in a time now where it's already been done, and the cookie cutter approach to rehashing something else, it's getting cut. You come with the original product, the original product's good. Give it to the next guy, it gets cut. it's not as it's a step down.
It's watered down.
It's watered down. You give it to the next guy. It's like a drug
Cocaine dealer.
It's a cocaine dealer. You caught that reference, did you? But that's exactly what it is. And by the time we're at now, it's generic, and there's no
sad though.
There's no value to it. And you're not going to get off on it. It's just you're sitting there watching it, going, "Why am I watching this show?"
Are there just so many ideas, and everything is just saturated, and people are clawing for just little bits of originality, or we're just less creative now, or are we less creative / a little more lazy now, thinking about only the money? I mean, how much of the creative process is hijacked now for dollar signs?
Oh yeah,
and
really hijacked in 2021.
Oh yeah, and I mean, maybe the original creative idea in the process is there, and the passion for it is there, but like you hand it off to a company or a film
That's
company,
what it
whatever,
is.
and it just gets trashed. And it's no different probably than being like we were talking about politics a little bit before we started. It's like probably being like a heartfelt, genuine politician. I want to make change, and then they get into it and they just get chopped down. I think it's the same idea.
It's like that everywhere now, and it's in every aspect of your lives. It's in the entertainment business. It's in the politics. Yeah,
this is how it's done.
It's in business too, especially in big business.
It's the established business. It's the established community. They dictate to you which you're not going to last very long if you don't follow their rules
or get their money, like their funding or whatever. If you don't do it their way, it's the highway. End of story.
Yep.
And the entertainment houses in this country have so much power, and I think at times when you hear discussions like this or shows that bring up this subject, it never really gets fleshed out. But if you really think about it, Americans really become indoctrinated. They fall in love. They become very loyal. They give of their time endlessly to our entertainment world, whether it's television, film, music. Think about it. I mean, it comprises a big part of the average individual's lives, and there's a lot of power there.
You could have a Great Depression, and the thing that's going to survive is entertainment.
Right.
And granted, it's going to change. Look what happened during this pandemic. Boy, I wish I had some Netflix stock. You know what I mean?
Right.
The business shut down, but Netflix went through the roof. All these streaming services. Instead of going to the theaters now, people just can sit at home and on demand a new movie or whatever. And now that they've got this COVID protocols in place, and we're back making movies and stuff like that. Yeah, it costs a little more, but we're back up and running. The movie industry didn't die. It's just
changed.
It shifted.
It shifted.
It changed,
and it shifted. And it shifted. They were creative enough to find a way,
or desperate enough to find a way.
A lot of these cats, because if you go back and you look at like Netflix and Blockbuster and what happened to Blockbuster, and then you have this. We'll send you a movie. It says you don't have to go to Block. And now they're
convenience became everything.
Yep.
The strive is for the ultimate of convenience,
and that's exactly what they found. People are busy now. Moms and dads work. Kids are
Yep.
Yeah, so Netflix and Amazon, even Amazon broke over to that. Amazon Films. Now Hulu's got stuff. They're
Apple has it.
YouTube has stuff. I mean, everything.
Yeah, everything's
They're all fighting for the attention. They're fighting for the public's
exactly,
attention.
and everything's right here at the click of your button on your phone, which we didn't have back when we were young.
Right.
But now, if I want to watch a movie, I can watch it right here on my phone or my laptop, or if I don't even have to go to the theaters to see a new run movie.
That is, I mean, that's something that breaks my heart about the movie theater stuff, because number one, if you're a big movie buff, you're losing the theater experience unless you have some kind of killer setup at home and stuff. But more so, like all these agreements with all these big film companies that said, hey, HBO Max, will you debut this movie the same day it would come out in theater? And I mean, it's taken away so much.
Yeah, but that's what they say. They say they give you the option of the viewer. If you want to go on a date, you go to the movies and see it. If you just want to sit at the comfort of your home, you'll still pay the $17 to sit at your house. But that gives you the comfort of sitting at your house.
But you're paying $17 a month at your house, and you can watch 10 million movies.
Yes, exactly.
So what are you going to take?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I love the technology. I love the fact that it improves and it continues to give us a better experience at home. I love that. I think that should continue. But yes, caught in the crossfire of that increasing technology is our movie theater industry.
Yep.
And I'm not into protectionism. Obviously, I don't want to protect any industry. If you die because technology changes, that's capitalism, right?
It's life, yeah.
But it is kind of sad because I think movie theaters are so intrinsically part of what we do. Drive-ins, that whole coming together loosely in a venue to watch something together. There's just maybe I'm romanticizing about a time gone past. I don't know. Well, that's probably going to go away at some point in time, and I don't think COVID's going to kill it. I just think that the convenience and the laziness of the human condition is having everything around us.
I think COVID accelerated it.
I think so.
If anything else,
I think so.
If you want a comparison, something like that, look at a newspaper.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you had something that the entire world read, and it was part of you. Got your news from this physical piece of paper that came to your house every day. Right. Now you just go online. You don't need a newspaper. You don't need a magazine.
Might have delivered. The whole infrastructure.
So everything went down from that. Yeah, you still need some reporters, but you don't need the press people. You don't need the kid delivering it to you.
Right.
So that industry's died. Everything it'll come to pass, and if you're strong, you survive or you adapt.
Yep.
And again, when you look at something like Netflix that has adapted, and look what they've become. Mm-hmm. Now they're instead of renting the movies to you and mailing them to you, they're making them. Because that's who I'm working for now, Netflix. Hey, Netflix.
I was driving by somewhere the other day. I think it was like a drugstore that had a Red Box outside of it.
Yeah, I remember Red Box.
And, I mean, they're still around, but I mean, there was a window of time not that long ago and pre-pandemic where my wife and I, it's like $1 to rent a movie. And you can automate it. You do it on your phone. You go pick it up, blah, blah, blah.
Are they all gone now?
No, they're still there.
Giant Eagles had them locally here?
Yeah, they still have them. I mean, I was at Giant Eagle yesterday. They still have them. But I just think, again, they were some interim between like Blockbuster and Netflix and all that stuff. But again, I think the pandemic probably just killed them.
Yeah, because you can't touch it. Yeah.
I have a Rush one like that. No. Yeah, with the Mylar. We're gonna ask you. I'll ask you.
You want to run back though, right? Because Rush sucks ass.
Oh, here we go.
Come on.
It might get a little volatile here in a second, but it's just
Hang on. I gotta look good again. Hang on.
It may get a little volatile.
Oh my goodness, my eyes. The light is hurting my eyes.
The light.
Hang on.
All right.
I gotta look.
If you're doing that, I'm doing that. I'm like, okay, I'll make sure my hat's on right.
Oh my God, the two prima donnas I have in here.
I look like Kowalo.
Oh my God, I look like I get hit.
Wait, they're wearing sunglasses, yet they still are checking their.
It's how the hair's hanging out of the hat, and all,
Lead singer syndrome.
Whatever.
I'm just saying because I'm jealous because you guys still have hair.
There it is. Got my curls. I didn't brush my curls out today. Oh, I took a picture of myself by accident. I did not brush my curls out.
I thought the not brushing the curls out was by design.
No, I always brush them out.
Oh, I thought you made the decision not to. Okay.
No. I always brush them out.
Usually does.
I usually brush my curls out.
Well, I'm coming in with pigtails. There's a
little side pony.
There's a photo floating around the internet.
Oh, I've seen it. I know. I put it there.
Oh, it's of you. Oh boy.
There's no such thing as bad.
Do you want to talk about that photo?
You could. I'll let you talk about it. I want to hear you. I want to hear you describe it.
He has a little Britney Spears outfit on, and he's got two side ponytails.
Was this a Halloween costume?
It was. No, what it was Zach Wild bought that for his wife. Oh. So check it out. He buys it for his wife.
Let's hear it, man.
So he goes, dude, you fucking think fucking the warden fucking look good in this fucking Britney Spears fucking outfit? I'm like, yeah, dude. I said, that's pretty fucking hot. So we played this Halloween show at the Stone Pony in Jersey. I shit you not. Fucking, he's sitting there and we knew the thing. And he's up there. He's like, these motherfuckers out there, Black Label, fucking come kick your ass. Fucking come into your town, fucking kick your ass. Fucking, if you name your band the Goo Goo Dolls, you need your fucking ass kicked. Fucking Fred Durst fucking killed fucking music. Fucking motherfucker fucking gonna kick his ass. But meanwhile, I go back in and I get this Halloween, it's Halloween show. I get this Britney Spears outfit fucking for that he bought for his wife. I put it on.
He doesn't know this yet.
No. This is during the middle of the show. I go out to the bus. I put this fucking thing on. I come walking up in this. I look like, oops, you did it again fucking thing. I've got a mini skirt on, fucking no underwear. Fucking, I've got.
Search the web. This photo exists.
I've got fucking. I've got the like little push up.
Bustier
Catholic girl skull shirt, like a little knot, and he's sitting there. These motherfuckers are fucking black labels when they come to your town and kick your ass. We look at all of us up here. We fucking, and I'm standing behind him and like in his Britney Spears with like side ponies and shit, and fucking
on stage.
Oh yeah, dude. I hand him a guitar, and he's like, he fucking turns around to get the guitar, and he looks at me. He's like, yeah, thanks. Fucking, but yeah. So there's like a. I think there's because I have the rest of the photos. It's like him like in his Viking outfit. He's got like a crow, and Robert's got like a Viking thing on. Here's me and Britney Spears. So I'm like, here, man. He's like, I'm not fucking giving that to my wife. You're up there. I remember he goes,
not now.
He goes, you're up there dressed like Britney Spears. I'm like, I'm not Britney Spears. What the fuck are you talking about? He goes, you're dressed like Britney Spears. I'm like, I'm not Britney Spears. He goes, what the fuck is that? I'm like, dude, I'm the Liberty Bell. He goes, how are you the Liberty Bell? I'm like, here's my bell, here's my knocker, and here's my crack. And fucking, he's like, oh. He goes, no, I really don't want it back.
Especially, well, I don't know if he knew the no underwear thing, but after that.
Oh, believe me, yeah, there was no underwear in Black Label.
So David and I both want to know the following. Me primarily. I'm just throwing him in for moral support. Want to know, once and for all, because I have never gotten the true story.
No, I'm not going to tell him.
Why do you dislike Rush so
What's your
bad?
beef? What's your beef?
What's your beef with Getty, Neil, and Alex? What's your beef with these fine Canadian gents?
Wait, can I preempt that with a question?
Yes, God.
What do you think of Dream Theater? The same.
I work for Dream Theater, but I can't.
Well, I'm just trying. I know.
No, exactly. I see. The thing is I am not.
Watch him try to weasel his way out of this one.
This is what I've always said. I just don't like notey music.
Okay.
I don't like notey music, and that's just it. And
that's weak.
It's not. To me, it's like you don't need the. Now here's the thing for Dream Theater. Is I really didn't appreciate it, and I say this about Rush as well, because I've been on stage with Rush too. I didn't. If you're sitting out there, if I'm listening to it on the radio, but you don't appreciate the musicianship until you actually watch these cats play it.
No doubt.
And to watch John Mayung play that bass, and it's just like, how the hell is this guy doing it? And to watch Petrucci play, and I've sat there, and I've literally been on stage with Alex and Getty, and watched while one was playing the keyboards, the other one's playing the bass pedals with his foot and playing guitar, or Getty's playing bass and he's playing,
and singing,
and he's singing and playing bass. Those cats were, granted,
a machine.
Yeah, and to watch three guys instead of running tape.
Right.
And it's the same with Dream Theater.
Pulling off all that.
Instead of running tape, they're playing. And they're up there really playing.
Yep.
I didn't I knew some Dream Theater stuff, and when they called to come in, I'm like, well, yeah, I'll come work for you, but the key wasn't how long the tour was, where are you going, and I'm at the point in my career I'm like, oh, I've never been there, so yeah, sure, I'll go because you're going to Malta and you have a day off, and so that's what that's how I make my touring decisions. So when shit comes back around and you're looking for a guitar tech, go to exotic places I've never been, and you can hire me for a phenomenal fee.
Or where the pubs are.
Yeah, but yeah. So as for Dream Theater, but to watch those cats I knew Petrucci's playing, I knew of his playing, but I really didn't know of I knew my uncle could play, and
Portnoy.
No, Mangini was with him, and I was always a Mangini fan, more than Portnoy.
Are you high?
Oh, I'm not a Portnoy fan at all.
The man?
That could be a whole different show.
You like the guy?
I think Mangini's a way cooler player, man, and I loved him when he was back with Annihilator, and you got to figure that's metal back in the day,
right?
And it's a little thing, but Mangini he can play what Portnoy can play and then some.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to argue talent.
But I dig Mike I dig Mangini as a person.
Well, I think the rest of the band does too.
Yeah, and that's been well documented. I mean, Mangini's I mean, he's a stand-up guy. He's a cool guy, and
But you never dug Rush. Like, I mean,
never dug Rush. Never. Rush was, to be honest, Rush was my first show I ever worked. And I got a set of Getty's bass strings. They gave I got a set of Getty's bass strings. It was the first show I ever did was Rush, Roll the Bones.
Oh, yeah, 91.
And
I was there.
And I literally got, and I just remember sitting there going, this is a horrible way to start. Yeah. It was my first 3 shows, 3 days in a row.
Eric Johnson opened for them at that show, am I right?
I cannot remember, but I believe he did.
He was just breaking.
Yep. My first 3 shows were Rush, Travis Tritt and Marty Stewart, and the Grateful Dead. Ugh. And that's how I started my career.
That's
Shoot me. Shoot me in the fucking face, The
Grateful Dead.
Oh my God! And that's how I started my career out, and it was just like But again, over time, I got to be honest with you. I went and saw. I took a girlfriend to see Rush. And I fell asleep. I was like sitting there snoozing in the fucking arena. Looking there, saying, "You're snoring." You know what? Oh, fucking the trees.
Why do you love Rush?
Well, I mean, I'm probably somewhere in the middle.
Between us,
yeah. Like I think last time I was saying, like, I'm a lowly only singer. I never learned an instrument well enough, so I don't play technically anything. But the one thing that I consider that I like kind of separate myself a little bit from most people that don't play is, man, I appreciate instrumentalists so much. And like I love Mangini and Portnoy. I know I've heard a million things about Portnoy as a person and stuff, but like I could watch a good drummer or a good guitarist or a good keyboardist or a good bassist, whatever, play like forever. I really could. And I just appreciate the skill that they've developed in things. So with Rush, like my first, like remembrances of them were like probably the hits, like the first time they kind of really struck. So it was more so to me at the
like
time.
Moving Pictures with Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, like, and it was more so the song, the song caught me or whatever. And then, there were albums in between where I couldn't tell you a thing about them.
Right.
But as I caught things and heard things and songs that I liked and songs that didn't really grab me, the one thing that I always rotated back to is the musicianship. I was just like,
well, they're not melodic pop rock. Like,
no, they're not.
Where your heart's at.
But they still have an element of melody that just it grabs you, and it depends on the song. But they had the ability to do that. I mean, Dream Theater to me, they're somebody I probably love, and they have and always had the ability to have that melody in a song where their songs to me were above their musicianship. Like, they're incredible musicians, but they wrote songs that meant something to me, but more so their melodies they were extremely melodic and they grabbed me. So Rush was somewhere in between. They had songs that did that. Other ones, they didn't really grab me, but I looked at them like, holy shit, they're playing their asses off.
That band is a fascinating study, Rush, because of the length of time that they made it.
No doubt.
And being the genre they were in, there was all the change, the constant change and stylistic stuff. And sometimes they were touched by what was going on in society.
Yeah, experiment a little bit.
Yeah, like the 80s, I think there was a degree of that. But there was always that thread of individuality, and they were going to do what the hell they wanted to do all the time.
Right, and they were their own genre. I mean, I think they were their own thing, period. And that is why they survived.
And if you look over the great legendary bands, AC/DC, Kiss, Rush.
There's a formula there.
Yeah, there's a formula there. Pink Floyd. There's a formula as to, and they are in their own rights, each one of those bands, they're legends, and that's what they're identifiable by just listening to them. You can tell a Rush song by... Yeah. Oh, that's Rush.
And I think we said the same thing before, too. Queen. I mean, another example. I mean, whether you love them or hate them, Journey, which I didn't get to talk about last time. I mean, they fit into the commercial thing, and people call them corporate rock.
It depends how deep you go into that band.
True. I mean, you go way back, and they're friggin' doing jazz stuff on their first album or two.
Yeah.
But they all had this thing, this formula that you knew it was them the moment you heard it.
Yep.
And I agree with the 100% on the Rush.
I know Rush because I hear 1,000 notes in the first 10 measures. And I'm like,
Not every
I'm like, that's
not accurate.
That's
That
everything.
isn't. I mean, think of Tom Sawyer as a perfect example. You hear like the one chord that hangs in the beginning, and I mean, you know it's them, and it's them.
No, it's
Are
exactly.
there bands that you can hear a chord, or have you ever been turned on by a song that you heard a chord of a guitar?
Oh, yeah.
And you knew who it was.
Oh, yeah.
Before you even heard the vocalist.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think Kiss is a good example of that. You
Yeah.
know, the beginning of a couple of their tunes is just balls out, huge chord or something like that, and you're like, oh my god, this kicks out.
So I can't believe you just said that. So for me, I heard "Lick It Up," and I heard just the opening guitar riff on that song. Before it even gets that, I think there's a descending. As soon as I heard it, and maybe it was because of prior production similarities, I don't know what it was. I knew before I heard Paul Stanley's voice that was Kiss.
That was a Kiss tune. Yep.
Yeah, before. So are there bands or have been moments in your appreciation of music that you heard an intro to a song that was new to you, but you knew who the hell it was before the vocalist even said anything?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can remember that happening to me with Rush.
Yeah, I'd have
Rush.
to dig a little bit, but yeah. I mean, honestly, like probably Journey is one of my go-tos there. Like I heard just something about it, you know, and with, you know, they were later on kind of keyboard heavy and stuff too. So
Yeah.
a combo of a guitar chord and a thing, and I'm like, oh, this sounds like
Yeah,
New
the
Journey.
way the musicians interact with each other.
Yeah.
I remember hearing the Counterparts by Rush in '93 when they were playing that on DVE, and it has a long intro, which was a new kind of sound for Rush at that time. It was going back to the heavier stuff, but just something about the way it sounded like that. That sounds like Rush.
Yep.
Heavier, but that's Rush.
Yep.
I heard AC/DC's Fly on the Wall album from the 80s, which I don't think was very big, but it was their new thing. As soon as I heard the crunch of the guitar, that was Angus Young.
And I mean, they've never ever deviated from that till this second.
Never changed. It's the formula.
Their
man.
newest album is the exact same stuff, just chords just in different places.
You can hear a Stones song that you might not be familiar with in the catalog, and before you hear Jagger's voice, you can pretty much
I
know it's
agree.
a Stones song.
It's a
I agree.
stylistic style.
Black
playing.
Crowes, another band that has a very unique sound.
Yeah, and I think in the Stones case, please help me with the guitarist.
Keith Richards.
Thank
Keith
you.
Richards.
It's just his tone. Like you hear his tone and you know it's a Stones tune. To me, he has just that laid back,
behind the
clean.
beat. It's behind the beat.
Yeah.
Jimmy Page, the same thing. Now, there isn't enough Led Zeppelin material out to be stumped by anything. We've heard it all, right? But if you were to hear a new Led Zeppelin song, if that thing did exist, you would know. Because Page has a unique recorded tone.
Yeah, but I think today, if that happened today, I think Robert Plant's influence on it and how he's changed, I think would affect that a lot.
Paul, were you familiar at all with Walking into Clarksdale, which was the album that Page and Plant did like in the late 90s?
I'm familiar with that it happened, but I couldn't tell you much
that
about
didn't
it.
sound a lot like Zeppelin to me.
Yeah.
It didn't. So, yeah, there's things changed, but just, I don't know. There are signature sounds for bands that had nothing to do with the vocals.
Yeah.
And I think that's so interesting because a power chord is a power chord is a power chord, and the average person that doesn't really pay attention to music too deeply would say to you, how could you possibly know, right?
Yep, I agree. It's a power chord.
But you play in a band, you've been music's your life, you've been in bands, you know that there's tonal differences.
Well, it's like you can always identify a Megadeth tune. You know what I mean?
Which is harder in the metal genre,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And it's just like, that's...
Mustaine's got a
Yep,
signature
it's really
riff.
distinctive. Yep, you're right.
Like
you're
the
right.
Who, if you go back and listen to some of the more obscure, harder Who stuff, hard for the era, you just know by the way it's recorded and the way the chord voicing is that is going to hit you in the face was probably Pete Townsend producing that.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree.
Even though you might not know the song, you just know.
Yeah.
Some bands just have that. And I think the Beatles are probably the biggest example. We all know all the Beatles songs because the catalog's not that big. But their signature sound, although so eclectic and different, was always there, even before there was any vocal tracks. I find that's an amazing part of music that is overlooked, that there's a signature there in music to those who really love and dive into it that I don't know, that permeates through without ever hearing a vocal.
Yeah, and I mean, but think of all the bands we just named, and they're all the ones that have transcended any trends, and they're still huge in one way or another. Like, they really are. You know, Queen, Rush. I mean, they're still on the charts. I mean, everything you can think of, all their compilations, they're
selling things out.
They've transcended time and they've beat through every fad.
So my question to you would be, you know, when people think about production and creating a band and finding the next thing or finding the next vibe or trying to translate what the difference is between 5 hair metal bands in '88. I hate to use that term, but hair metal bands in '88.
I hate for you to use that term. No,
sorry. But if you take 5 melodic metal bands in the '80s that are trying to break, and you have them, and trying to find what's going to resonate with the public, that signature sound probably is more important. The sound, the initial sound to the ear,
right,
than the vocalist. Taking nothing against the vocal. I'm just saying.
No, you're right.
But I think the average person trying to sum up why they love a song might not look at it like that.
You're right. I agree. And I mean, like, in that genre, in my opinion, like, you know, there was kind of phase 1 and phase 2 of that genre, like the hard rock, you know, melodic stuff. And like, I missed a lot of the first phase and then came back to it after the fact. But I think particularly the second phase, by no fault of their own, and I'll throw out a couple bands as examples, again, because of record company guidelines and things, they got lumped into, this is how you're going to sound. I don't care what your song is written like or sounds like, this is how you're going to sound. And like, one of the ones that comes to my mind, I don't know if you've ever heard of, you probably have, Fred, is Enough's Enough.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Enough's Enough, I mean, Donnie is, to me, a phenomenal songwriter. He gets all his influence from the Beatles. If you listen to their tunes and break them down, they're Beatles tunes.
Right.
They're really well written.
Right.
And, I mean, I love everything about them, even the sound that they were probably, in fact, he'll kind of tell you a little bit, that they were forced to be, you know, in that, to sound that way.
Right.
So there's a lot more crunch and this and that than they probably would have liked in certain aspects. But I don't think it was, a lot of times it was any fault of the bands. It's like, regardless of how you sound, this is what you're going to sound like in the end. The end product is going to sound this way.
That's a shame.
It is.
They're being dictated to.
I mean, again, I still adore some of those bands, but where would they have gone if they would have not been forced to sound that way?
If they could have did their own thing,
and it could have been
vision.
It could have been a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, I'll be honest with you, and I've seen folks come in. You know, I've been in the studio enough where you see, here's the song, here's the focus, and I've seen producers go, okay, so here you go. This is what we're going to do. And no, let's not do it like that. Let's try it more like this. And I've actually seen it. I'm not going to mention names, I watched a guy come into the studio and was like reading like stock reports, and they had like the New York Times, and he's listening to the song. He goes, "No, your hi-hat, let's just try it a little different." But he didn't even
Rick Rubin.
No, it wasn't. I've never worked with Rick, but he didn't even look up. He was just sitting there, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna circle this. Yeah, do that again." And you see the song how it was. And then you see how it ended, and it's just like, that's not, and that's another classic thing too. With that was, and I'll say it. I mean, I saw Megadeth get stuck in that drama for granted, Dave's a great songwriter, and Broderick was a great songwriter, but you'd see Broderick's vision of and yeah, he's not Mustaine, but Broderick's a great player. No, you see a producer go, no, that's too notey, and they're chasing a Grammy, thinking that that's what they want, and they're getting away from. So you have the song as written by someone, and it's let's just invert, and this is a true thing. Let's invert that chord, and it's just like, no, that doesn't sound like anything how it was. Okay, and so now you have a song, but it's 1/20th of what it originally was. And
our chord voicing's a big a big thing in production? Have you seen that? That's like, is that a big area of change that producers want to touch?
Well, I in all honesty, I've seen it. I've seen it with Megadeth, but you have that Mustaine Megadeth sound, and they have to stick to it. That's a band that they've tried to experiment, but they're another one that sounds consistently this. You can hear it, and even after the changes from the first album to the last one, you hear it, you're like, wow, that's a Megadeth song, and that's a Megadeth, but there's a certain sound, there's a certain dynamic in the picking that that it is. It's not so much the voicing. So the thing with with Megadeth, you have that sound. It's a sound, and it's not so much the voicing. When you hear it, even from back then to right now, it sounds the same. And I think that a good producer will go back and listen to that and try to keep the true production value. And even though it may change, you may update, with the technology, you may try to make it sound fresh, but you want to keep those original elements as to how things were played. I think that all successful bands have that. You can hear it again in the Stones. Still, you can tell a Stones song from the '60s. You can tell a Stones song from the more modern stuff. Pink Floyd the same way. You could tell an old song. You could tell, but they still had that same element.
Right.
And a good producer will come in, and that comes to even with Rush. Using the same producers. Same with Kiss. Using that cat that knows your music. And when you listen to 80s music, there was certain cats that they used. They used Bob Rock, which all those Def Leppard things sound great. Yeah. And he moved over to Metallica, after the Black Album.
Black Album, right?
Mutt Lange.
Yep.
And so but you also have, Tom Werman for all those classic 80s, albums. And so it's that guy's print, and he kept a lot of those cats. Yeah. That's the signature sound, and that's what was selling at the time.
Right.
Well, David, in your band, I mean, talk a little bit about the process for you. How much did your band rely on producers, engineers, and so forth, and their visions and thought? Did you want a lot of input from them, or did that kind of change over from album to album? Like, how did that look like for you folks?
Yeah, it changed from album to album right off the bat. So, David Hanner, the name David Hanner, Corbin Hanner?
Of course.
Yeah. So
they are in that photograph.
Oh,
right
really?
There, Gravel.
I did not
see
my
uncle. They played in Gravel in the 70s. Corbin and Hanner was the source of that band.
So he did our first album, Nomad's first album.
Okay.
And I want to say, I don't know if it was Danger at the time, but somebody at Froggy brought it up as a suggestion.
Yeah.
So number one, like, if you know Dave, you love Dave. Mm-hmm. Dave is just the best guy ever.
No doubt.
And he's a hippie to the core, and he's a,
You don't say.
He's a smoker to the core and all that stuff. But I mean, if I go through the time frames of each album, it's like night and day. He was a guy that wanted to just subtly throw in his opinion on something. Maybe you should try this, and and if you said no, he's like, that's fine, keep going, and it was like that. I can't think of a time during the production of the first album where he put his foot down on something, and that wasn't the understanding. It was just like, hey, we're going to hire you to engineer this album, and blah blah. And Dave Brown is actually the guy that mixed it and engineered it as well, or mixed it at the end. But so we went from Dave, who was helpful musically because he's a player. He might have said to Gio, our guitarist, hey, maybe try picking this instead of playing through on it. So, I mean, just basic things. Whereas, Sean McDonald.
Yeah.
So Sean, we had recorded.
What's the name of his studio?
Red Medicine Studios.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So it used to be something else, which I won't say on the air, but it's hilarious. Actually, it's Sofa King Music, but if you say it the right way, it comes out a different way, and it's funny. So he mixed an album with the same group of guys. So we went from, before we were Nomad, we were a transitional band called The Truth, which I don't really talk about much because the album to me was, It did nothing. We were like stuck between, do we want to stick with hard rock and things like that in the early 2000s, or do we want to transition into like pop-ish kind of? So we came up with this formula, I'll call it, called The Truth. That was the name of the band. Dave Hanner again recorded that album. This is pre-Nomad, and he had heard about Sean at the time to mix it.
Right.
And we're like, okay, well, you know, we kind of want it to be poppy, but we want to have a teeny bit of an edge to it. And it was, it's hard to explain. Musically, if you listen to it, I think it sounds really, really good, quality-wise, production-wise, but it's just real bland. So then when we recorded Dave Hanner's the guy, when we were doing The Truth, he's like, you know, you guys are writing country songs and you don't realize it. And I've told this story a million times. And at the time, we're like, what are you talking about? No way. But that was around the time I told you, my drummer Bob introduced me to Keith Urban, and I listened to it. I'm comparing him like, he's right. You know, we are. And I didn't want to admit that. But as we went along, I'm like, you're right. So we slowly made this transition to country. Dave Hanner does our first one. We're happy with the end product. I'm still proud of it to this moment. But it takes us almost 5 years to get the second one done.
Wow.
Written and done. We were playing like bonkers at the time. Our goal was just to play, and we did. And I kind of regret that to some degree. But so we get to the second one, and we had heard more and more about Sean and what he was doing, and we were calling ourselves modern country, but we were also calling ourselves a rock band with a fiddle player.
Right.
You know, but still making it in the country genre. So we wanted somebody that would give our sound more of a rock edge.
Okay.
And that's why we went back to Sean, and we're like, Sean, you know, what do you think? We had a meeting with him. Sean's he is formal, and he is very thought through in everything that he does. And in his case, we agreed before we ever set foot in the studio that he kind of called the shots.
All right.
And we were a 6-piece band at the time, and that's a lot of
egos.
Yeah. and
call it what it is.
It was rough. I mean, we went through some rough patches, like thinking, you know, this may be
That's
not
a lot for a band to surrender, though, isn't it?
It's huge, and it really. I mean, if through those 6 members, we lost our lead guitarist. He left the band, and I'm not. Like Sean and I have had this talk. I don't for a moment blame Sean for that, but he pushed us to a point where I think he I hate to say broke, but our guitarist just wasn't in the mindset to do it that way.
Right.
And he left.
Right.
Shortly thereafter, our bassist left, but he did record the album.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, even me in the vocal booth, he's like, try this. And I'm like, I don't even know if my voice can do what you want it to do. But he pushed all of us. And then in another sense, he, the person that comes to mind is Bob on drums. He made Bob pull back.
Okay.
And again, we were
hard for a drummer to do.
Again, because we were in the rock mindset wanting to record this, but he was right in the sense in pulling some of us back in some of what we were trying to do, even me vocally. I wanted to do something I probably shouldn't have done, and he pulled me back on it.
Got it.
So it went from Dave Hanner, who was like, yeah, do whatever you want, to Sean, we're like, no, we're doing it this way. And I mean, the two are to me like night and day, the two products, and I'm proud of both of them, but for a lot of different reasons. So there are some things about the self-titled, which was the second one, that I love. Other things I'm not. I'm like, we should have done it this way in the end. But I think you always do
second guess it, sure. It's
yeah,
life.
and then our third true studio release, we did an acoustic thing in the meantime, which was just kind of going in and doing songs a different way. So, but the third one, which is the latest new original one, is going on 4 years old now.
Right.
We did it completely ourselves in a studio that we built. We got basic tracks. Man, I'm totally losing my mind. But we had a Pittsburgh native, and I'd literally I feel bad. I have to pull it off. But Pittsburgh native, who now based in Nashville, produce the thing. I love the end product. And
is it more about the material or the fact that you have more creative control?
Both.
Okay.
Both. And that's the thing. We musically, we did everything we wanted to do it the way we wanted to do it. We told him like kind of how we just envisioned production-wise the end product sounding. He'd send us, bits and pieces of it, and we're like, yep, that's it. And it's only a 5-song EP. That's the latest thing we've ever done. But maturity-wise, writing-wise, different people were involved in the writing process within the band. And, the end product was completely us in terms of music, and he just put the polish on the end of it. So if I drug on that, I apologize.
Not at all. That's
awesome.
Exactly what we want. And again, never going through that process. I'm an outsider looking in, and it seems really interesting to me because, and this is going to sound like I'm making musicians to be egomaniacs. I don't mean it that way, but people that are so creative are obviously very rigid about their creations, right?
Yeah.
And when you put a band of 5 or 6 people together, you have 5 different ideas and rigidity, and then you can somehow make that work. Now you're bringing another person in who may have an umbrella over all of you.
Right.
And I would imagine it's hard to give up that autonomy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I've got tapes that I didn't produce myself. I always call it demo love. I won't let anything... And I would. They're from back then. People wanted, nope, you can't change it. You can't change it. So they
rigid.
They just sit there. But to me, that's how I want it to sound, and that's how it sounds.
I think of Ray Luzier as an example. He told me a story about a more recent Korn record, and I don't remember which one it was, but they brought back a producer from the early days because they wanted to grab the earlier sound kind of mixed with the new sound.
Okay.
And I want to say that the end product, they ended up switching producers in the middle of the whole process. But I remember a story that Ray told me of this dude standing on the riser of Ray's kit while Ray was playing and recording, right? And yelling at him because he wanted to get the aggression that they had back then. And I mean, that just it. They all evolved. Things changed. Ray wasn't a member of the band at that point.
Yeah.
And like, he literally would take a stick from Ray's hand to stop him from playing because he wasn't happy with what he heard. And that and a million other things ended up making them switch producers mid-process, and the whole album sounded 100% different for that reason. So, I mean, that's when it comes to, like you were talking about Megadeth. I think of the couple producers that Kiss used over the years. I mean, yeah, that can make or break the sound of an album, and you could really be totally disappointed at the end of it if you stick with a person that even they stuck with somebody for a reputation of a producer, and then in the end they're like, shit, we shouldn't have done that.
Yep.
I think on the Kiss front, there was Bob Ezrin, there was Michael James Jackson. There was during the disco records, I don't know who did those, but they went back to Ezrin in '92 for Revenge, and you saw that worked out really well.
Hell yeah!
But then when they did the Psycho Circus record, which I think as a rock fan, taking my fandom away from it and looking at it as a potential hard rock album in the late '90s, was pretty freaking solid. But they used Bruce Fairbairn, which I think he passed away shortly after that was done. But Stanley and Simmons have both said independently that was a mistake, and they look at it now and it was just, they should have done it on their own.
Right.
But the albums that Stanley and Simmons did in the 80s weren't really received well.
Yeah, and I was kind of going to go there. A couple of the 80s ones fell short.
Weren't received well.
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess, would you use the word color? Like can a producer or an engineer, I guess a producer, could they color the tone, color the overall sound?
Yeah,
is that an appropriate word to use?
Their style reflection in what they're playing, because there's the cats telling you, let's try it like this.
Yep.
And so it does. It affects what the end product is.
But they're so important, because I look at the band Rush and I say to myself, this is never discussed really outside of maybe a unique podcast or something, but Terry Brown produced them from first record all the way through Signals, I think, so 82. So he had the first 9 years of that band, and I think in the readings I've done, he just seemed to be so intrinsically involved in that era of Rush's sound,
right,
that immediately when they did Grace Under Pressure in '84. I don't know, was it Rupert Hine? I don't remember. No, not Rupert Hine. Whoever it was, they brought on Peter Mendelssohn. I don't know. But it was interesting because it seemed like the producer kept changing every 1 or 2 albums going forward. So were they still experimenting, or were they still trying to catch that, the lightning in a bottle that they found with Brown?
Yeah.
And sometimes you just can't find it, right?
Right. I mean, I don't. You know them much better than me, but my guess is, just knowing what I think I know about them, is I think they got to a point in the early '80s where they just wanted to try something new and experiment with things.
Right.
I don't know that they were looking for another new, or like lightning in a bottle, like you described it again. I just think they were so genius in their individual musicianship and as a band that they just said, we're going to try different avenues and see how it goes, just because they could,
Well, I don't think they ever went out on their own and did stuff, did they? I don't think they never self-produced that record, I don't believe.
I don't think so either, no. But I'm saying with different producers, they were just like, let's try this guy.
Yeah, that happened, but I don't think they ever self-produced anything.
I don't think so.
Yeah, me neither.
And think about, what's that say? A band that accomplished, with those accomplished musicians, and they're nitnoids, right? So these are folks that probably know all the ins and outs of all the technology and everything. They still never did it on their own.
But I mean,
That's interesting.
Maybe they were genius for that reason. They were just concentrating on the tunes. That's it. The execution of the tunes. The producer can take care of the rest.
Have you ever seen some real battles in the studio? Like, you don't have to name names, but I mean, have you ever seen, like, you've been involved in the recording process for multiple bands? Have you seen artists and producers or artists and engineers just really get freaking knocked down, drag out?
Oh
shit?
Yeah. I've seen it. I've heard about it. I've seen it. I'm well aware of it.
Because you always hear all the stories that leak out.
And
right?
now, here's and I believe Zach talked about this in a magazine when they were doing that Aussie Down to Earth album, or was it back Down to Earth, whatever it was. I can't remember the name of the thing, but the song was That Gets Me Through, and Zach said, I wasn't out there for that, but we were talking on the phone, and I heard the song, and I called him up, and I said, hey, man, Kid Rock's called and said he wants that riff back. He goes, dude, I didn't fucking play on that. And I'm like, why? You're the fucking guitar player. And he tells me that the guy comes in, he does the riff, he goes,
sounds like Edgar Winter.
And I said, what do you mean you didn't play? He goes, dude, fucking, I start the riff, and the guy goes, all right, that's good. And he's like, what do you mean? I didn't play.
He sampled it.
They Pro Tools it. And he's like, dude, what the fuck? And he said that the guy was trying to tell him how to do it. He goes, dude, I'm the fucking guitar player. You don't tell me. And the guy's like, no, do it like this. And the guy can't even play. And he's going, bump, ba-na, bump, ba-na. And he's like, dude, what the fuck? He's like, play it like. He's like, dude, I'm the guitar player. So
would you tell Zach about how to play guitar?
Here's what happens.
I wouldn't do it.
So Zach's on the phone. And he tells me, he goes, dude, I told him, you know what? Fuck you. You do it. You do it. So the guy went, bump, 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 and went to the Pro Tools and went,
Edited them all together.
Yep, and that's what music's become. And I've seen that.
That is insane.
Where you can have an amazing player, but then you have a producer that comes in and just says, yeah, you know what? We'll just do it in Pro Tools. And, so that's, you have these knockdown dragouts because these old cats that are used to recording analog come into the digital world, and it's all of a sudden,
Yep.
And so the change in technology, I mean, I haven't seen Zach record in a long time, but I imagine he embraces some some of the new stuff that's out there, but I don't know how he records now, but I'm the same way. Everybody goes, during this pandemic thing, they're like, dude, just get your Pro Tools thing and let's make a song. My buddy in Russia's like, hey, let's record a song together. Just get your Pro Tools rig. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm still on tape.
See,
I'm looking for cassettes and a 4-track somewhere.
Let's talk about this.
I do have a digital 16-track, but it's just like, technology right now has just become
okay. So let's talk about this. This is something we touched on last time, you and I, but we really didn't flesh it out, and now we're going to flesh it out. It's a very slippery slope if you take a pro or con hardline stance with Pro Tools and the like, because it's too easy to say, well, that's not musicianship. That's some kid playing around in a computer and sampling and all that stuff. It's too easy to say that because in the end, it really is about creativity, right? And there's no laws about who can play and who can't to create the ultimate product.
Yeah.
So is the kid playing around on a keyboard, a computer keyboard, and creating something like EDM music? And because there's some very successful EDM.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge.
My point is that really any less valid than a guy like John Petrucci who has spent years playing his instrument? Now, we tend to romanticize, I love that word, about how hard it is to work at a craft. And if it takes all these years to play guitar, that's a very unique and cool thing that took a long time to develop. Whereas we somehow invalidate a computer user creating music against a guitarist. I'm not really sure, as much as I kind of lean toward doing that, that's really accurate. I don't think that's fair. I think there's creativity on both sides. Again, just my opinion. I certainly give deference to the musician,
Right.
And what I like, but I have to be careful not to invalidate the creativity of the keyboard musician. And how do we balance that now? Like, you're an established artist in what you do, and you've seen technology evolve. I mean, have you ever thought about what you lay down on vinyl, which turns into your recorded tracks, it turns into CDs and downloads, that when someone samples or takes a vocal squeal you have and loves it and then puts it 3 or 4 different places in a song that you've really only sung it once organically,
Right.
is that real or does it matter?
You or me?
You first.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we're coming to you, big boy. Don't worry.
I mean, bottom line is this, in my opinion, and I think we went there in it for a different reason last time,
Yes.
but bottom line to me is the average ear, the consumer, the basic person that just likes music, that doesn't appreciate musicianship, doesn't care about this, doesn't care about like the specifics of it. All they care about is, does the song appeal to them? And that can be...
Hasn't it always been that way?
Well, I mean, I guess, yeah, for the average listener,
Okay.
yes, it's always been that way. But again, I don't play an instrument, but man, I mean, I adore and appreciate when I hear something that took a ton of skill and a ton of time to develop a song and
Right.
all kind of, a lot of craft.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't look at that stuff the same way, but I just think it really comes down to, do they like it or not? Like the average person, does it catch your ear? Does it have a nice beat? Mm-hmm. And I've always said that, to me, most average common people, all they care about is a melody, if the lyrics mean anything to them, and a basic beat.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but I think that's the basic bottom line level of what people care about in a song. Now, you take it to somebody above, and this is going to sound like I'm putting down the average listener, but
No.
somebody
Someone's
that...
a critical listener.
Right, or that has musical skills, or that writes songs, or blah, 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 melodies and stuff. And it's a different ballgame to me.
Well, they will cheapen it because it doesn't, in their eyes, doesn't take the same level of work.
Correct. And it's not quality. It's just people kicking out tunes. That's my opinion.
Okay.
What was the question?
I knew he was going to say that.
And this is going to surprise you. I'm going to go. I think it's the end product of the song, how it's received, and for the most part, it doesn't make a difference how you get there. It takes skill to learn. I haven't learned Pro Tools. I just, but it takes those cats' skill. It takes people's skill to learn how to program that keyboard.
True. It's a different kind of skill.
Exactly.
Yep.
So as you create the process, just because I learned how to do it on guitar and you learned how to do it on a laptop, maybe it looks easy that you're DJing or whatever from a laptop now, and whereas somewhere in the back, back in the day, people, they just took the technology to make it easier. But is the audience, is the listener happy with the end product? Are they dancing? Are they getting it? Are they liking it? That's still the end. It's still it's a different kind of skill that gets you there. Yeah. And 20 years ago, you wouldn't have heard me say that.
Right.
No, not at all.
No, but that's just it, because I realize I can't learn. I can learn. I don't want to learn the new way of doing things. I'm happy with my skill set, and when I record, like,
That's age, buddy.
well, but that's it though. But these people are progressing, and history, I guess, progresses. You have to to adapt, and I've always accepted I'm not going to be a producer. I'm not going to be and if I record something in my house, I still do it the old way. But I see these. Well, there are people my age that go in and just they play the clip, hit it, and go bang, and the song comes out. It's a great tune.
Well, that's every pop song.
Well,
right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Whereas if I sit down to it, I have to play every note, and it just takes me more time. Where you've learned the efficiency of it,
Right.
and everybody likes your song, and mine takes more time, and people could like my song the same amount. It's just, and it's all about the end product,
Yeah.
how it's received. Doesn't make a difference how you get there.
Right.
The journey's, it's your own personal journey. Getting there at the end, it's how it's received. So,
Yeah, and I might have sounded derogatory on that in terms of just how I compared the two. But again, like there's nothing wrong with them doing it that way. If a number of people or a mass number of people like it in the end, whatever, it's
that's
a hit.
its own validity.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm that old man going, you young kids today, you and your newfangled technology. Back when my day, when we had to record.
Yeah, but think about coming out of the 60s, or
4 tracks.
4 tracks, then 8 tracks, and then multi-tracking, which Les Paul really popularized decades prior, but with Page doing that stuff, because
Bouncing tracks.
Well,
Absolutely.
See, here's the thing with that is my first recording thing was a 4-track.
Yep, mine too.
And so, but I mastered bouncing, and I could take the tape and I could flip it over, and I could give you backwards, and I could do all this little fun stuff on your 4 tracks. And when I listen to my old stuff that I won't change the demos, it's all done on a 4-track with multi-tracks where you had to sit in there and you had to get it right, because you couldn't go into, there was no Pro Tools or hooking up to a computer, and you had to do it. And if you didn't do it right, it's ruined.
You botched the tune.
You
yep.
botched everything.
Yeah.
And so when I sit back and I listen to these old recordings that I did back in, and I'm like, wow, man, I did all that on a 4-track, and there's 10 tracks on there that I bounced back and forth, and I got a great product. Now it's, you just hook a board to another board, and you've got unlimited tracks.
It really isn't that really a great thing, though. I mean, it was cute that you could all learn that, and it was a skill, and it brings back good memories for you. But in terms of work production and flow,
no doubt,
technology is amazing, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to fight it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I never learned that, and I don't have the time to learn it because it's not my field right now. Well, that's, again, it's me and Marshall amps and being a sound tech, shit like that. I know those things. I know knobs and I know buttons. I don't know going into the fractal and changing the voltage, going virtually over a plate, when you want to get, I'm like, dude, I could care turn the knob and give me a sound. I don't want to go in and have to tell a computer, this is what I want to hear virtually.
Yeah.
Listen to that. And you know what?
But look how, in my opinion, look how amazing some of the output or the results of technology has been on the music we love. And when I think about the stage shows that we see today, it's still the music we love, but it has been for decades. But think about what the stage shows have been crafted for bands like, Journey and Yes and Kiss and Rush and all these bands that put on bigger and bigger shows that are all driven by computers, man.
Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd.
Trans-Siberian, man.
That's what I'm saying. But it's all computer driven. Without that technology, part of the whole experience of the live event would not be what it is.
Well, that's what's happening now is with Megadeth. I had to sit there, me and Willie had to sit there and physically punch when they wanted to go to clean a distortion or distortion to clean. You had a guy that sat there and had to listen to the music and tune a guitar and stand on his head and do all this stuff. And here comes the part, and 1, 2, 3, bang. You had to change the clean part. Now they just plug it through Pro Tools, hook up a video to it, and some pyro explosions. You don't even need that guy.
It's all synced together.
It's all synced together on a time code. So if you're
pretty amazing,
if you're
really.
playing this and the video is playing and your pyro is going to go off and this guy's pedal is going to switch, it's amazing what technology can do.
Yep.
Right.
Whereas back in the day, you had manpower to do it.
Yep, it was all triggered manually.
I think about that story that Peter Criss often talks about in the early days of Kiss, where they were out on tour and they were trying to determine how they were going to get this drum riser to go up. And there literally was two guys in the back on pulleys, and they were, behind another curtain and pulling on this pulley system to raise the drum kit or the drum stage. And of course one guy was pulling too quick and it would tilt. And I mean, it's just amazing how far we've come now.
Yep.
It's unbelievable.
It's nuts when you look at. And again, I'll go back to the Trans-Siberian show. They've got lasers. Everything relies not the music, because those cats are really playing it, but everything relies on computer. And my buddy Tony sits back there and he starts it, and the video and the lasers and the pyro and every little thing, it's on a click track.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what
You guys incorporated
much
click
easier.
tracks in your performances in the past?
Yeah.
So did you go there when that was first introduced to you? Was it from the very beginning, or did that evolve?
It evolved, and it's like our drummer Bob is really well versed with Ableton Live. It's it's used more so in a live environment. But it compares to Pro Tools and things like that, and the way you record. So, there are on the first album we had a banjo player come in and record banjo track. We don't have a banjo player, but to us it was really important to have that banjo part, and we weren't going to hire a seventh person for our level of things to do that. We just couldn't afford to do that.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, like little things like that. There might be an acoustic where both guys are playing electric, rhythm and lead and things like that. So we just wanted to fill in, in parts, and we still do that to this day.
Got it.
And I mean, I know people don't like that, but I'm really a person that loves emulating the studio track as closely as you can, but giving it that live feel too.
Well,
I mean,
certainly.
We will change things up with somebody that's performing stuff live, but man, I really want to hear that banjo because it's important to that track.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of validity to that. I think people do like to not entirely hear the studio track exactly like the record,
Right.
but I think there's something to be said for giving them an experience that they anticipate.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe that's me again being a singer or musician or whatever, but when I go to a live show, one of my favorite acts, and I hear a part on the record that I really love, that it might be something so stupid, but it sticks out, I want to hear it live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really do.
Well, some things you have to play.
So it's always amazed me about, like, when you see the old Zeppelin stuff, and even Rush. Those cats are playing with their feet. You know what I mean?
That's insane.
And they can play their instruments with their hands. They're singing and playing with their feet, just to give you that
the whole
authentic
album thing.
And when you look at Zeppelin, you see John Paul Jones playing the keyboards and stuff like that, trying to, and some songs you hear that they can't do it, and some songs you hear that they nail it. It's just like, wow, man.
I think John Paul Jones in particular is very not only underrated but underappreciated in that Zeppelin was notoriously a thin-sounding band live. They just were, because you couldn't, and they didn't, to their credit, at least maybe initially, they didn't backtrack or multi-track the live performance of the layering of Page's guitars. The only guitar you heard was Jimmy's.
And were they even capable of doing it then?
Probably not.
Yeah.
But John Paul Jones really created the fullness, or whatever fullness was there in live Zeppelin. Really.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. He's playing the bass parts on keyboards. He's playing the bass with a Taurus pedals. He's playing keyboard with the bass pedals. He brought the fullness to it, whereas that's the technology they had at the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? I would love to see, the thing in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. What if Beethoven would have had a modern keyboard? You know what I mean? Imagine the music that this cat could have created with just the technology. But he did what he did and created
with what he had,
timeless music for what he had. But again, these masters, can you imagine what it would be like if they had today's technology?
Okay, but see, let's take that premise. They were unique in their era. People weren't doing that kind of stuff. There may have been people who were skilled enough to do it, but there wasn't a demand for it. Flip it on its head today, that there are thousands and thousands of guitar players that can burn to the dirt any of the top players that are famous today. Some kid sitting in Cambodia who's got a YouTube account can probably play the greatest guitar in the world, but we're never going to hear it for two reasons. Once, because of saturation. All these amazing players are now would be theoretically competing against each other. But the times have changed where music's been devalued, and it's nothing that a lot of people are aspiring to from a monetary standpoint because it just isn't there anymore. Yeah. So different society, different ways of communicating, we're all interconnected. So my point is, how do we know there wasn't 100 or 300 or a million other people able to do what Beethoven did? They just didn't have the platform to do it.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, agreed, 100%.
Right now, you don't even need to have a band to get signed to a record. You just have to go on YouTube.
Yep.
Justin Bieber. You got to be a YouTube guy and get in on there, and the next thing you know, you got some fans, you're on tour, you got a record deal, and you're on tour, and you're doing great.
But it's so few and far between, though, Fred. I mean,
but again, it changes with the technology, but the platform's there to have it. This cat just look at these, and I hate to say it, these no talent hacks that come up and they make YouTube content or TikTok content, and they're getting millions because somebody wants to watch some chick shake her ass or some dude and they're getting millions of hits for doing nothing, but they've mastered the technology and the platform and the marketing to do that.
Let me stop you for 1 second. I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
All right? Hear me out. Feel free to bash me if
See,
you'd
I'm
like.
usually the devil's advocate, so I'm happy that you're doing that.
Feel free to bash me out. Okay. All right. No talent hacks. Talent is very subjective.
Did I say that?
You did say that. Well, no, hear me out, though. No, I'm not going to necessarily disagree with you. What I'm saying is there's a platform for all these people to try to catch the eye and ears of other people. Call it being famous, just being noticed, right? And we can talk about this sociological thing going on there. You know, that's a different conversation. Take a band like David Bowie, Kiss, bands like that, New York Dolls. Take that early 70s era, right? It's pretty fucking weird to put makeup on your face and go play very simple and sometimes like audibly abusive rock and roll in 1971, 72, right? There wasn't a lot of people doing it.
Right.
Really. It was rebellious.
It was rebellious.
It was kind of the next stage of rebellious beyond the 60s.
But the way it was perceived by society in that time was that was pretty weird, right?
Yeah. Twisted Sister was in that New York scene like that.
A decade later, yes, indeed. What I'm saying is that any more weird than some kid doing something really bizarre on YouTube craving attention? Really, the formats are all different now. Society looks a lot different now, but is it really any different than the weirdness which spawned some amazing acts? Right.
Well, here's the difference. Those amazing acts could actually do something,
right,
other than shake their ass or put on makeup. You know what I mean?
Really?
Granted.
Was Poison really a valid band? Has they ever really been a valid hard rock band of really any substance?
That's what was going on. That was the trend in the 80s in Hollywood. Again, it came from there, and we talked early. Some producer saw them and said, "This is what we're going to make you do." Figured those cats are from Pennsylvania,
right?
And so somebody saw them, but they had to go out and catch the attention and play in front of people on the Sunset Strip to catch that attention, Whereas now kids, all they have to do is go on YouTube,
go in their bedroom, turn on their webcam.
That's not that kid's fault.
But no,
that's the path that they see in front of them.
They're using technology. Yeah, kudos to them that they're doing it. It's a lot easier now thanks to technology than it was.
It's just different. I don't know if it's easy. It's more competitive now because of the technology.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's an ocean, you're a tadpole in an ocean. That's the competition.
If you started a band and you were 18 years old and you had the balls and the money and the luck to get to Los Angeles, to play the Whiskey A Go-Go in 86, to start doing that, you're really only competing against probably another 100 to 150 bands at that era. That's it.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
If you're doing this in your bedroom, trying to catch lightning in a bottle and being noticed, you're competing against millions of people.
And that's, I watched this.
That's the difference.
I watched this thing where these people of like minds are getting together and they're buying a mansion, and 5 YouTube influencers are living together, just coming up with content, ideas every day. But it'd be the same as producers or music or movie people sitting in an office coming up and bouncing ideas or writing a song together. That's what these cats are doing. They're doing the same thing on a different platform, and they're able to. They have the access instantly to the world,
right?
And they're able to harness that.
And I think you combine that with something that didn't really exist anywhere near as much in let's say the 80s, is just everything now, everything you can imagine, think about it, is tied to advertising. They link it to a product. They link it to this. They link it to that. This segment is brought to you by so-and-so. I'm like, everything is brought to you by somebody these days. So those influencers.
Not our show.
That's right. You're right. You
Not
are
our show.
You are the standout.
Sponsorless, no influence,
Proud.
no ads, no bullshit.
That is kick ass.
Plenty of bullshit, but
I mean, you are
bullshit.
the extreme rare exception,
Damn
and
straight.
it's great that you can do that. But everything you can think of in terms of like the YouTube stuff, think of hashtags, think of product. I mean, everything is tied to something. And if they get one little bounce back to a company where they took a drink of, a pop, a beer, whatever, and they get a sponsorship, I mean, that's like catapulting you into stardom. I guess they are called YouTube celebrities and YouTube influencers. Yeah.
But still, the pathway is just a lot different.
100%.
I mean, there's opportunities to
and I think
around in the 80s.
I think the pathways today are focused on products and advertising. Like these influencers sitting around going, how can we get Coke into this? How can we just mention them here? How
that
can we
started in the movies in the 80s and 70s, right?
Yeah.
Like product placement in movies.
Product placement.
Oh yeah, but it's everything now, and it's not just product.
Real life is almost product placement now, right?
I mean it's it's literally everything now. And I mean, Dave August attire. No, I know it's not. Tell him. Say
Dave
it.
might kill you.
It's a joke. I said it to him.
He's a great guy. Dave Allen.
Dave Allen.
But yeah, so I mean, in all honesty, again, I still think X amount of years ago, right now it's a whole different ball. I remember, this is no joke. I was taking photos. I was doing this fashion shoot, and I was talking to this dude who was just a dude standing there. And I remember somebody came up to me and he said, "Oh my God, what did you say? What are you guys talking about?" And I'm like, "Who?" And I can't believe you were talking to Patrick Starr. And I'm like, the guy from SpongeBob? Was that who that was? And he's like some YouTube makeup influencer that's like super huge. He's got like 10 million followers. I'm like, yeah, man. I was just asking where I could put this shit down and where I can get my jacket. But it's just like but things have changed. Whereas when we looked up to our rock stars and our movie stars back in the day. And the chance meeting of these people, now you've got these cats that are out there, they're on YouTube every day, and they know the meaning of promotion and getting a picture taken and yep. It's a whole different ballgame, and it's
changed.
There's money to be made by being seen, by having your product being seen, and you got to do. Yeah, I guess you got to bust your ass to do it. But right now with technology, it's minimal. If you want to get there, back in the day, like I said,
I think it's still very lucky, though. I mean, there was an element of luck in fame,
No
right?
doubt.
Yeah.
There's always an element of luck, but there's so much more luck needed today because of how many people are there, how crowded the field is.
I agree. Yeah, but I really think it comes down to all that, the marketing and promotion and stuff.
Yep.
That's just so important right now.
Well, Poison. I think about the band Poison. That
Poison?
was marketed. Yeah, I know. We can talk about their musicianship.
I was going to come back to them a little bit.
And Brett Michaels. I mean, I'm not saying they're talentless in the band. I'm just saying there really isn't a lot going on there.
Come on, I know you watched Rock of Love.
I can't say.
But I'm going to defend them a teeny little bit. Mm-hmm. So you're probably one of those guys, I'm going to guess, because you didn't. I mean, it sounds like you were never really into him to begin with. So you heard album number 1 for sure. Mm-hmm. Maybe album number 2 or parts of it. Like I'm trying to think of. Was Every Rose on the second album? I want to say it was. So anyway, but the point being is, to some degree, not a huge degree, but to some degree, again, kind of going back to what he says, number one, at least they played all their instruments. That's number one as far as we know. I mean, maybe there was some stuff in the studio.
I think that stands in doubt.
Some of it. I mean, and CeCe DeVille might tell you that
that's the main culprit.
Yeah, that somebody else played his parts and stuff. But as they went along, this is what we talked about last time. To me, particularly like fourth, fifth album, things like that, like I think their writing matured. They tried to do stuff outside the, screwing girls and partying all the time and stuff like that. And I actually think their tunes got a little more in depth. And their playing got better, which
I wouldn't deny any of
you would
that.
expect that.
Yeah,
you would hope that it progresses to some degree.
It couldn't get much worse.
Yeah, and they toned down their look. I mean, things matured and things changed. But by that time, people would ship them down the river, or grunge came along, or whatever.
Was in there. Yeah.
So, and I'm one going, man, this is a great friggin' album that nobody's ever going to hear.
Yes, there's a lot of great albums nobody's going to hear.
Him and I had that talk last time.
Well,
yeah,
Dave's thinking about doing a podcast with the premise of taking these unique bands and really doing deep dives into them.
We were talking about that.
I mean, it's going to be,
cool concept.
It's definitely going to be a niche thing, without a doubt. But, for the people that I start talking to, like you go to a rock festival, M3 Rock Festival. Mm-hmm. So you go there, and I could spend days there talking to people about stuff that nobody else gives two shits about.
Right.
But we're all totally into it and totally stoked by it.
No doubt. And I think that's the spirit of podcasting. What we do is an exception. I think the free-for-all show of open genre is an exception.
Yeah.
Podcasts really originated for niches.
Yep.
Well, look
niches,
look where technology's brought us. We're doing a podcast now. Whereas back in the day, if you wanted to get out there, you had to be on the radio, or you had to book radio time or a TV time. Look at you.
Which, nobody could afford to do.
Yeah. Now, you built a studio. We can do this anytime we want.
It's true.
That's Sweet wanted that.
Yeah, it's a very sweet studio.
I had Chris Winter, really popular WDVE DJ, and a couple other companies. Yeah, everybody loves Chris.
Love Chris.
She's great. And what is tough for me as a fan of her and a fan of DVE in this town and that era is to see how radio has literally become almost, when it comes to music, outside of maybe the country genre, which is starting to go this way too, it's almost kind of like just a tool now. It does not have a lot of intrinsic value as a part of the community. Does that make any sense?
Yep.
And they have really devalued the art of being a local DJ.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And to see people like her and Eddie Crow and the people that I've really paid attention to in this town, and even seeing my friend Danger on Froggy, just seeing how radio has changed and things being de-emphasized.
We're getting old.
We're getting old, but I think
technology's changing.
Technology's changing. The public's wants are different, but the way music has been devalued and the way it is consumed now by the consumer, not entirely sure we got there on our own. I think it was spoon-fed to us that way.
No doubt.
But that whole era of being a radio personality on the music front has gone away.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you used to call up your DJ and ask them to play a song. Now you can get whatever you want on your Spotify or your thing, and they'll play you your playlist, and you don't have to deal with that.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's changed. And it's taken away, like you said. The cats that we listened to growing up, you know, and you had to have some kind of on-air talent to keep the audience listening.
Of course.
You know, you wanted them. I mean, that's why I went to school. I was on the radio and stuff like that. And you know, it's a dying breed, because now you have the corporate things where you can just go in and plug your cable radio, listen to the songs you want, and you get like some guys going, "Hey, this is me and me.
Right.
Listen to this, blah blah blah, that."
Well, the personality's been devalued.
Exactly.
You know? Right?
Exactly.
Right, and I mean, he started to touch on the corporate thing. I mean, this applies. I mean, DVE might be one of the few exceptions, but you know, almost every radio station now falls under a corporate umbrella. Country is one of the biggest culprits of this.
Yeah.
And they now, I mean, I could tell you some stuff that I shouldn't say.
Yeah.
I'll just keep it vague, but you know, they've eliminated people's shifts for a computer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's number
it's
one.
All the time.
You know, morning shows have gone national.
Yep.
So, forgetting his name, but you know, I think it's 104.7 is a national country show now. So he's everywhere. So that eliminates that shift as local talent.
Right.
But you know, going back, the more important thing to me is like, it's now where, I mean, it's been this way for years, but it's gotten crushed down to
Well,
like.
that's one of the things I really respected about Froggy Radio to this point.
I agree. I
Because
was going to get back to that.
they're really super focused, I think, at least to this point, on Pittsburgh, and having local personality still means something to them. Now,
Right.
they may be forced to make changes down the line, hopefully way down the line.
And they have a little bit, but they've still kept kind of that hometown feel.
Yeah, and I think that's needed. I think that's part of community to a degree, don't you think?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean,
For
DVE
sure.
doesn't mean the same to me that it used to. I mean,
same
WDVE
here.
was like an anchor in my life.
Right.
That was intrinsically like mine
Right.
in the 70s and 80s, right?
Right.
You know, Jack Malloy, the Midnight Rocker. I mean, thinking about not being able to sleep and turning on DV, and you just never know what's going to come on there. You know, those were comfort. I guess my point is to romanticize about that era again. I think there was comfort for a lot of people, especially folks in tougher areas, like, you know, 70s, 80s. Pittsburgh was not a very
Thriving place.
It wasn't. So people from tougher areas of the country probably really had personal relationships, as much as you can have a personal relationship with someone in the airways, but a personal relationship with their local DJ at a certain time spot during the day or the weekend that delivered things you want to heard that made you feel good.
Yeah, they were playing the things they loved.
There's some kind of psychological thing there that I think now has been gone.
Now it's all computer.
It's gone.
Computer format. You know, corporate format. They tell you what to play. When you can go to the same radio station every other day, and you'll hear the same song at the same time.
I noticed that.
Every other day, every like 3-hour shift.
Yeah, and that's it's dictated by.
That's not good.
And going back to what he
That's
said,
not good, though.
you can say whatever you want, but you can call and request a tune on a lot of stations.
You're not getting
You're
it.
never getting played
That's all
because
dog and pony
they
show.
are bolted down to 30 tunes, and that's
Yep.
what they're playing. That's
Here's
all
what
they're
you-
allowed to play.
Here's what you're going to get. This is it. You know, and you know, even with DVE, you hear the same songs over and over again. But the thing is you can call up and you get like those deep cut lunch.
Oh yeah,
things.
they have request lunch and stuff.
But that's the only time you're going to have that open kind of playlist because it's corporate, it's bang.
They look at statistics and say Pink Floyd gets the most listens. We're going to play them X number of times a day
at this time.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's where the science comes into. These cats are using technology to figure out who's listening and when. And what's, you know, again, there's some morning shows I loved growing up, and you listen to them and they were great. Now you listen to it and you're like, just if I had fucking the power to, and I often do, I'll turn it off, and I know when sports coming on, so I'll listen to the sports, then I'll turn it off and listen to something, and listen to my iPod in the car or whatever, because
it's so different.
I miss what I was used to, and it's not delivering what.
There was a sense of community with radio stations, and you had competitions between radio stations in town. Sometimes they were the same genre, sometimes they weren't. But that was all good stuff, and I think that competition created different kinds of personalities.
Yeah.
And it was really, and it's just not Pittsburgh. It was every metro area across the country. But the Pittsburgh is what we know. But growing up between DVE and WBZZ was the pop station. Then you
B94.
You had B94. Then you had there was a new edgier rock station, I think in the late 80s, early 90s, the 105.9 maybe, whatever that was called then.
The X.
WXDX.
Chris Winter was on the X for a while there. I guess my point is there was all these different areas to go get, depending on your mood, the kind of music you wanted.
Right.
And you kind of probably knew the personalities.
Right.
And it was just something really intrinsically cool. I do want to add something else. About 25 years ago or 20 years ago, right around the time I started the Boogie Street Guitars venture, I ran into a very popular DJ in this town who was on DVE. I won't name names. Not that it really matters. It's not a big secret, but I had the courage to speak with them. I had a great half an hour long conversation, and I asked the question like this.
Does payola exist?
Well, we all know that does.
Okay.
I asked the question, I was always puzzled by the fact that it sounded like to my ears, it sounded like to me that when you played my favorite songs on the radio, they sounded like they were sped up a little bit. That they were just playing it not 33 and a third, but like maybe 34, 35 maybe. Like that something was just a little bit too bright in every song, no matter what station I listened to. The pop station, rock station, country station, metal station, didn't matter. R&B, it sounded like everything. And then it sounded like they sometimes kind of ended a little early. And he explained to me that it is a common thing in radio forever that they take that track that's 2 minutes and 55 seconds, and by the time they're done with it, it's 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And that 10 seconds that they save on every track,
Every tune, yep.
they do it where they hopefully no one recognizes it, but every once in a while they screw up and they wind it up or they play it too fast. And I was like, wow, really? And he goes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So they can fit more advertising in.
dollars in there, right? And I was like, my mind just went poof, because I always thought maybe I was hearing something, right? Or it was a conspiracy to shortchange us on these songs, but they're really, it's just all math.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. One positive thing, one opposite thing to that is, and I'm pretty sure Froggy still does it, but so they're one of the few stations that will play unsigned music, including ours, and they figured out some timing thing where they could work in an original tune spaced like out every hour and not take away from advertising time or affect advertising, but still fit within their policy. And Frank Bell explained it to me at some point, and it was pretty amazing that they would even take the time to do that. Because
they do champion local acts.
No doubt.
That's what I always loved about Froggy.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, no doubt.
And they figured out a way to do it. And I'm like, well, that's one of the few stations that still champions that, because you're not going to find many of those in the country.
Well, I think Fred and I would be reluctant not to give shout-outs to Lynn Deppen and Frank Bell and Jeremy Danger Malter, Donnie Fast.
Danger.
Those folks and everyone else we're forgetting, but Boogie Street was located in Rawson Farm.
I didn't know
Frog, we were right down the hallway there.
I didn't know that.
And we had our space there. And because we weren't a brick and mortar walking guitar store, we hid there.
Yep.
We were shipping only. But they adopted us and gave us access to their conference rooms for video shoots. We did.
Cool.
They gave us our internet service. We didn't have internet there, because I couldn't afford it when I first got the business started.
Right.
They took care of me there. They would parade these artists in and out all the time. We had Taylor Swift came in before she had ever broke, and was one of the many artists that would come down. And we tried to give her an acoustic guitar. The Van Zants came in. Dolly Parton came in. So I had the opportunity with Fred to meet all these people too,
Nice.
and put a human face, I think, to the music business that I didn't have. Fred already had that, but I didn't have it. Just seeing these were regular people. And even today, could that happen now? like if I had moved, we had put the studio down the hallway from Froggy and Robinson, the camaraderie wouldn't be the same. It was just a very unique circumstance.
Yeah.
But even the radio business has changed. There's less people in the radio business.
Oh,
These
yeah.
companies have had to contract in terms of their personnel.
No doubt.
And I just feel, and again, I'm romanticizing about the era, but I do feel like radio was such an amazing part of our society, and it's going, music radio is going away.
It is. I mean, I think terrestrial radio in particular. I mean, satellite, there's still viability to it, and you're paying for it, but you're also getting like obviously a ton more selections to do whatever you want. You can, with their apps and things now, you can almost program it to some degree like you would a Spotify and such, and then you have things like Spotify radio and all the other streaming services have their radio things where you get to pick your genre and it's going to play exactly what you want all day long.
Yeah.
And it's even like, just like we're talking about music being devalued, DJs and all that. I just don't think people put time into listening to those people anymore. And they'll say,
it's crazy. Chris Winter is unemployed in the radio business,
Yeah.
right? I'm telling myself, how did she not pick up another gig? Like, are you flipping kidding me?
I agree.
Right? Like,
Yep.
wow, I'm just like, that just doesn't seem
And it's just
possible
like
to me.
people will, they'll use the excuse, however you want to do it, is that like nobody has the time to really care about that anymore. They want to get to point A to point B in their car. Here's some tunes they like. End of story.
So, do you think that's really true? Now, maybe it would be only our demographic and older that would embrace the return to local-based, DJ-driven request radio in music. But I think that there would have to be some kind of people that would enjoy going back to that, right? Just not enough of us, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a nostalgia thing. For as much as I'd love to live back then, it ain't gonna happen. There's no money in it. For as many people, it's just everybody's looking forward,
Yeah,
not
I get
behind.
it. The convenience of music on demand, the things you want. Like, we didn't have on demand outside of pulling the record out, putting it in our turntable, or maybe doing a cassette thing in that era in the 70s, early 80s. So the other way to get the music was to wait for it to come on the radio.
Right.
So that was part of how we got the music delivered to us, where radio is being squeezed out by the availability of having stuff on demand.
Yeah, you don't
now,
have to
I
wait
guess,
for
right?
anything anymore. Videos, music, nothing.
Yeah.
If you want to hear Zeppelin, they got a station for Zeppelin. Right now, if you want to hear,
Yeah.
oh my God, if you want to hear Rush, they probably got a Rush station out there. You know what I mean? But all right, here we go.
All right, let's ask one last question before we wrap this up.
Wait,
today.
should I have another drink?
Sure, you should. All right,
You might need one depending on the question.
that's true.
You could go on for a long time.
I got an easy one. So, I know both of us, Fred and I, have talked about at length about music in general and how it is disposable. Dave, on our podcast together, we talked about, is it disposable? I posed that question. This guy said music is disposable around 2009. I remember you telling me that. I think music is going to be disposable going forward. And I just, like, mine, boom. So let's assume that we agree that it is disposable, which is a horrible word, but it is disposable. Okay. Being that that's the case, then what do you see is the future over the next decade of music? What is music as a thing going to look like in 2030?
I mean, I think just generally, I think streaming has already taken over, but I think it's going to become pretty much the only thing anybody cares about as a majority. Like, I'm still going to be buying CDs if they exist to support the artists that I love, probably. But I just think that, like, I was starting to think this before on a similar topic we were talking about, but going back to the devalued thing and things, I just think that it's so available in terms of streaming, in terms of YouTube. Like, I even catch myself many times going to listen to somebody specific, let's say Van Halen, listening to 3 or 4 tunes and say, it'll pop up a list of videos or a pop of other tunes of other bands, and I find myself going down this wormhole of like 10 bands later on, and to me, I feel guilty about that after the fact. I'm like, I got so far away from Van Halen. I don't know how I ended up here, but it just takes away from that meaningfulness of it because it's so friggin' available. So, and that to me all goes back to streaming. I mean, it's you can pull up anything you want, anytime you want, any time of day, and you're paying $10 a month for it. So, as compared to paying $10 for an album that has 10 or 12 songs on it that at one point in your life meant the world to you, you know?
So do we have too many choices?
Yes.
Are we being too many choices? I hate saying that because that sounds so anti-capitalist, right? The idea of having choices is supposed to be the blessing of our society. I think the way they're being delivered to us is too immediate. We have too many immediate choices in our consciousness all the time.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
It's like that in everything, Eric. It's not just like that in music. It's your
try to buy cereal.
Your cable. That's where I was going. That's exactly where I was going. It's with your cable. It's with your supermarket. All the choices that you have. And you know what? If you don't want to go to the supermarket, you can go call Amazon and they can deliver your chicken chips for you. And then
even food, prepared food. I mean, it's snap of a finger. It's at your door.
It's at your door. And so and they call that progress. We've come to the point where they're calling it progress. And that's,
is it?
Well,
really depends.
If you want your stuff right away, here's what's funny was we were talking yesterday, and this is an off topic. I know I'm going somewhere different because we're
well, what else is new, Fred?
But the thing is we were talking about, we needed someone to write on a chalkboard for this scene coming up for a TV show. We need somebody with good handwriting and stuff like that, and cursive and
cursive.
But there you go. They don't even teach cursive writing anymore.
Yep.
So is that progress that we're on a computer learning how to write? Because what happens when that computer crashes or the world goes to shit? Nobody knows how to cursive write anymore. Nobody knows how to. But that's just, it boggles my mind. They're not teaching that.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Do you know how to cursive write?
Of course I know how to cursive write.
Do you use it all the time?
Yes, I use it all the time.
Do you?
All the time, no, but I mean, I do use it, and I mean, I probably print a lot more than I do, and obviously typing has overtaken both of those, but I know how to do it. I still think it's a skill or a craft that you learned as you were growing up.
Right.
And it was,
like critical thinking? Deductive reasoning?
Yeah.
But that's, do we no longer do?
So you can ask, talk about, we were talking about, is that progress? You look, some things that are progress, and some things that we think we're being progressive on, it's really not progress. So we could tie it into the UFO show and say that what if 200,000 years ago a society existed and they got rid of their cursive writing and nobody knew what happened and they nuked themselves or whatever, and nobody could tell the story because nobody could cursive write. So the only thing they had was drawing these caves where they'd taken refuge from the nuclear fallout. Next on the UFO podcast. I had to tie it up. But that's, but
we could do that.
But the thing with progress, we have all these choices now. And it's amazing that anything we want is on our phone, which we didn't have when we were kids.
Right.
On our, we don't. Does anybody really use their phone to talk too much? I mean, you might because you're real estate, but
not often, not enough.
I send more texts.
Yeah, than you speak anymore.
Yeah, not enough. That's for damn sure, man.
And God forbid we write a letter to somebody in cursive.
Now you send an email.
It's weird on how things have gone. But when we sit down and we say, it's affected our entertainment. The way we watch TV is different. You used to wait for the Beatles to come on the Ed Sullivan Show to see them. Now if I want to see them, I just call up YouTube, and there it is.
Yeah, if somebody's on
point.
Kimmel one night,
Yep.
you can watch them the next day on YouTube.
Exactly, and I do that a lot. As I watch Saturday Night Live,
Me too.
on Sunday on YouTube.
Yep.
And
Me too.
So everything we want is at our fingertips, and it's because of technology.
Yep.
But what's music going to look like? And I asked that specifically about music, like what, because, I mean, I'm not asking you to define music. We know what that is. That stream of consciousness, the audible sounds. I get all that. But what's it going to look like in terms of how we consume it?
We're going to have, it's going to be on demand. It's just be like one of the movies. The day the album comes out, you can stream it, you can buy it, you can get it on CD.
We have that now.
If they still have it. But now you're going to have some kind of enhanced.
10 years, what's it going to be?
Well, the thing that comes to my mind is, like, for example, like all the AI, like Alexa and all that stuff. So to me, that's the newest next step, and it's only going to be more advanced. Like you see, like they have intelligent glasses now, things like that, where there's an earpiece at the end of the glasses. You get in your car. I mean, I think the future of cars and music is internet connectivity directly to the car 24/7, so I can go, boom, Alexa, play me this tune, instead of throwing your CD in or plugging your phone in. It's just going to be at your fingertips at all times, by your voice more than anything. Like I'm sitting, even today, I'm sitting in my kitchen eating breakfast, and I wanted to hear this tune. Alexa, play me this Van Halen tune. Boom, I hear it. So I just think it's just going to be more instant access at your fingertips, probably triggered by your voice or something simple. I mean, it's the physical product is probably going to be almost completely non-existent unless you're a collector or somebody that just loves it.
Absolutely, I agree with that. It's going to be on demand. Any way you want it. They're going to stream it to your earpiece, to your radio, to wherever. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play me Love Gun.
Yep.
And you're going to hear Love Gun.
Or show me a live performance of Kiss doing Love Gun. Boom, it's there.
And it's going to be there on anything you want. On any your phone. I mean, these are computers now.
So think about it. So this would be a utopia that many citizens probably thought about decades ago, and it's actually coming true. When people with curious minds, me included, wanted to know things but didn't have the resource to go find them, even as a young child, the ability to get the answers to anything that comes
to go to
into
the
your
library
mind right now. We kind of have it now, but you're saying it's going to even further intensify.
Yeah.
Google came out with Google Glass.
Yeah, that's a good example.
7-8 years ago, and then it got squashed for safety reasons. I think the public was kind of freaked out. It might have been too early. But why hasn't that resurfaced? I would think that right around now, we might be more receptive to something like that,
well,
right?
I wasn't even thinking of Google Glass when I mentioned glasses, because like Amazon has a set of glasses out. It's not, you're not seeing anything visually, but it's tied into Alexa and things like that.
Bose has that too now, I think, with just and I guess they're just Bluetooth, but they're in the glasses.
Right.
Yeah, but Google Glass is going to come back.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, think like you mentioned like futuristic stuff. I think of the Jetsons as just a silly example, but that, I mean, if you watch that seriously, I mean, they have a grasp on that instant access thing. Everything's right in front of them at all times, and I think that's what the future is. So think of everything now, how we think we have instant access, and it's going to be like 10 times that.
What we call music today will still be a tangible thing 10 years from now.
It's going to be a bunch of crap that's too loud. Turn it down.
I don't mean it like that.
Turn it down.
I'm saying it's like the music is out in the ether, right? And we classify it as a tangible thing that's delivered to us. Take the money component out. It used to be a monetary thing. We kind of assume it's not really monetary much anymore as its own thing.
Right.
It leads to other things that bring money. But as a tangible, marketable item directly attached to money, it's kind of not there anymore, right? So we call it music. We still call it music. Is it possible that maybe not 10 years, but as we go forward, this thing we call music might be so entrenched in our lives that it may not be craved by humans for enjoyable. It may become part of the background of how we exist, and it literally isn't its own thing anymore. Does that make any sense?
I mean, I kind of see what you're saying. I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I guess anything's possible, but I want, like, you made me start thinking about the live component of music in the next 10 to 20 years. Maybe it becomes a thing where, like, I think of Vegas, where, I mean, a lot of groups and such would much prefer to be in one spot performing and making money. So maybe maybe virtual, like the pandemic is created, becomes something for the future where tours aren't really tours anymore.
This generation coming up, they might not value events.
Yeah, you might go to your computer to see a live event as compared to going to the live event.
A lot of people right now prefer rather than going to the computer. Remember back in the day when you went to a concert, you didn't know what they were going to open with, what song. Now you can watch.
If they were going to be any good.
You can watch the whole show online before they get to your there's no surprises anymore.
You know the set list, you know everything about it.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely it's interesting to think about where we're headed, because the reason I ask is, really, does the way music is delivered today as it was prior in 2010 to 2020, did it really change much? There still was downloadable music. There was what really changed on the technology front in 10 years when it comes to music?
Think about where rock and roll started. You had the radio, you had the record, and you're only given a record. So you have a record, the radio, and an occasional TV show and a live concert. That's the only way you got that.
Well, you know, that,
now you've got.
That was that way all the way up to, what would you say, they started the internet, really?
Yeah, and now you again, and look how it's jumped tenfold this year, and then the next year it's tenfold. You know what I mean? So in 10 years, it's hard to say how it's going to be delivered, what new crazy. Because remember, like mini compact discs.
Oh yeah,
they were short lived. You know, you had the laser disc for movies. Who knows? This technology that we have now is going to be. There may be a whole different.
But the tangible item is gone now. The downloading changed all of that.
Yeah,
right.
And I think from 2010 to
streaming changed all that.
Yeah. Right. I think from 2010 to 2020, the true phase out of CDs began, and the transition of mainstream. And the statistics show that. I mean, you know, CD sales went burp, streaming went burp.
And when you get rid of CDs, your cost goes down.
Yeah,
and
and
because
product.
You don't have to physically make something. All you got to do is beam the particles over your interweb, and there you go.
And I mean, even studios. I mean, people are friggin' recording really good sounding stuff in their bedroom, and that depresses me to some degree.
You don't even need a studio anymore.
You don't.
Look at my Fractal. I could have any amp. Anywhere.
Yeah, we talked about that last time.
And I have it right there in a box, and I don't need to buy a Marshall or a Laney or a Fender.
Yep.
I've got anything I want to create, and I don't have to lug it around right here. And that's changed the way music is presented in concerts. There's cats on live shows. All they bring is a power amp and their Fractal, and they just plug it straight through. There's nothing else on stage other than a box that sits on the side of the stage, and they're up there jumping around, getting the same sound as you would out of that Marshall. And it sounds real. It sounds right. They're actually playing it. Yes,
because oversampling has come so far on the digital interface now that they have the right tone. Because the early pods and things like that, the digital effects were not that well. They were tinny sounding, and you could tell the difference.
Oh yeah.
But now the oversampling is so good.
Now it's so imagine and look how far that's come.
Yeah.
You know, imagine what the delivery system of music we have now. They're going to come up with something different. They're going to just beam it straight to your brain.
Well,
I was going to say earlier, like you're going to get a little microchip port in your head.
Yep.
I think the film industry will never go away because I think humans love stories, and films are basically played out stories generally, right? Music doesn't have that really. It can be about a story, it can tell a story, but that's not all it is.
Oh yeah.
I just wonder if keeps getting devalued in society, that given maybe a generation or two, does music just get faded out because of all that's going to be going on around us, and that may replace or diminish music?
I imagine music's been around since the cavemen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Somebody tapped a rock.
Yeah, they had a beat going.
They had a beat going, and because music is primal. Music is in you, and it's something that it brings out an emotion. It brings out. It gets a response.
Right.
So I don't think it'll ever truly be phased out. Whether you're sitting there tapping a pen, something's going to happen. It's got rhythm. That's something that's ingrained in us, and I don't think it's something we'll ever lose. It may not be good, it may not be bad, but it'll always be there.
Yeah, and I think it'll be. I also think though too, because of the lesser and lesser profitability from it, that there. I mean, and I think this has already happened in general, but they're gonna. I think the youth component of it will be there, but I think they're just going to be cycling through artists, like chewing them up and spitting them out a lot quicker.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Because
I agree with that.
They'll make some money off of a person. They'll get a little too old. Somebody younger will become along the pike, and that person that's getting a little too old to the industry or whatever will not want to put the effort into it because they're not going to make a living from it or a profit from it.
No, I get it.
So I think they'll start falling off quicker.
I get it.
I think that's already started happening.
It's YouTube and social media influencers. They only have an X amount of year
lifespan,
shelf life.
Yep.
Oh, I see. I like the way he thinks.
That's just crazy.
It's the truth. I really believe that. And I mean,
you're not going to have bands like Led Zeppelin or the longevity of the Stones anymore. Those guys, you're not going to have that. It's flavor of the day, flavor of the moment, and that's what's there. These cats that have had these long ass careers are happy to have them, because look how many bands from the '80s. They're around, but they're not around.
Got it.
You know what I mean?
Got it.
So, how many bands from the '90s? And what would be, other than Teen Spirit, what's the Stairway to Heaven from the '90s? What's the classic song that you can name off from the '90s and say that's the anthem of that?
Yep.
Freebird.
That was the '70s. Go to
the '90s.
Yeah, '90s.
Hootie and the Blowfish, probably.
It's funny. I thought of them too.
Now go to the 2000s.
No idea.
Go to the 2010s.
Right.
Name the song that's the song of the generation.
Right.
And you don't have that. Even
Happy.
Happy's a cool song.
Yeah, it is. But I thought we were sticking to rock, and there isn't any.
Oh,
I mean, even if you get to that, any genre, there's no definitive.
Right.
This song speaks.
Good point. That's a good point.
You know what I mean? And so we can already see it happening, that these things are just so disposable.
Yep.
Because there's nothing that really lasts.
Yeah. And like going back to the bands from the '80s, like I think I mentioned it to you last time, like some of those bands have decided that it's not worth them creating new music, so they're just going to tour out the rest of their lives.
Right.
And to me, it's
sad.
It is.
Skinner.
It's depressing to me. Well, yeah, they're a good example, but I'm like talking from the glam rock era. Like they still have.
There's no incentive for them to write.
Correct. And I mean, but there are a lot of them still doing it, and I'm glad they're still doing it. Like Winger's a good example.
Winger,
still cranking out excellent good music, new music, and they're just doing it because they love it.
Right.
Look at bands like Foreigner with no original members.
Yep.
And even Kiss said they could survive with no original members. What was Quiet Riot has 0 original members.
Yep.
And they're still playing it.
Yep.
You know, and some of those guys are still alive.
Yp.
You know, but it's
is that really Quiet Riot though?
But they're playing the songs.
There's no original members.
But they're playing the songs, and they're going out on tours, and they're playing at festivals.
People want to hear it, man.
It's a nostalgia thing, you know.
Yep.
And that's, I was telling you about the podcast we want to do.
Right.
I told my buddy, I'm like, I refuse to make this 100% nostalgia, and if we do, I don't want to do it anymore because.
Well, your whole show is the fact that it's not nostalgia, because this is newer material or later material they did outside of their popular eras.
Yeah, and newer material though too.
Yeah, I get that.
That people, like I said, they heard the first or second album when they were huge, when it was all big, and then sold them down the river when music changed. And I'm like, if you would have listened to this, you would have probably loved it more than you liked that. and they toned down the hair and stopped
Yeah.
wearing the makeup and
Yeah.
got more serious about their writing and stuff. But most people don't give two shits.
Gents, I loved it. This is fantastic today. It
was a good time.
I really appreciate it. And I did not miss that T-shirt, man. Look at that Stone Romeo, baby.
Stone Romeo.
That's nostalgic.
That's just a little bit. Definitely come back and do this again.
I would
For
love
sure.
to. Yeah, let's
Right
get
on.
more people involved. Let's go crazy.
Yeah, we might. I might actually do a show up here pretty soon with our 5th member. I'm thinking about putting another chair down on the end. Not for every show, but once in a while to bring a 5th person in here. We can make it happen. I'll lean on him to get all the audio and visual stuff to be,
Where's our TV? We need a TV.
TV's, don't worry, it's going to be here for our next UFO show. But again, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you very
Means
much.
a lot. Best, I can't speak. Best to both, and I wasn't even drinking. Best to both of you.
Same to you,
All right.
man. Thanks
Excellent.
again.
Thanks for having us.
Friends, we are out.
Peace.
Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.